Everybody enjoy it getting colder?
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
There's no room in here.
You have to sit on each other's lap.
Somebody dropped $1 over here, so whoever it is.
It was from hers.
That one.
There's a chair over here.
Can we move in a little bit?
Yes.
Otherwise I can't sit on the cushion.
There's chairs up here, Kathy.
No, I know, but I have to.
Oh, okay.
That can stay there. Yeah.
No, you don't. Ellen, you might want to sit up here. You're on the floor.
I know I don't have
I'm assuming it's a recorder?
Yeah, I thought it's easy.
I know it's Ellen.
and usually I just have to plug it in. And I'm on E and I don't even show them.
You can call me Elena because I
And the memory's not full, and I don't know. I want to try
How do you know it's not full?
because the other folders, like folder
I don't want to
has recording notes or something in there. I should be able to have that all full.
But I'll tell you what.
Folder B, I only have one section right there. And folder C, I have like 3 things.
But what's the total? Because they have like a total time. I mean, this thing's got a total amount of minutes, no matter what folder it is. I can have like folder only full, and B, C, D, and E will be empty, but A will take up all the recording space.
What do you think you can do to like...
Okay, well,
You have to erase something.
finally I found some primitive tribes.
If you're a good girl,
What is that?
I'll send you a copy of this.
I finally found some primitive tribes on my last trip.
Where was that?
Is this a question and answer period?
Was any question for
Modern day Western Pride.
So I've been to China, I've been to Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. Still in Vietnam, there are some primitive tribes, but not completely. And Burma, Indonesia, in Malaysia, and never found a truly primitive tribe. So this time I went to Philippines. After I went to Thailand, I finally covered by vehicle all of Thailand except for the southern peninsula. So I got to every tribe there was, and still no primitive tribes. Just Laos, most primitive tribes, there are no primitive tribes. So the Philippines has 7,107 islands. And you know they can't populate all of them, so a lot of them have very primitive tribes that live in the old ways. The government would not allow me to go see them. They tell you they're cannibals, they give you all these crazy stories, because it's just like the American government, are telling everybody, all the natives are savages and they will kill you and all of that. So, of course, everybody was shooting the natives and then it turned them that way. So, the American Indians. So the Philippine government is doing the same thing. And, the corporations, they want to do away with the Indian culture so that they can absorb the land and all of their resources. So there was this one little boy who was about 5 months old, 6 months old, 5.5 months old, I guess he was. And his father was black, the mother was dark brown, and the baby was toe white, whiter than I was as a baby, and I was white. And I could see he was pretty anemic, and the mother had fed him powdered milk because that's what the government and the media tell them is the best thing for babies. And we know from the Pottinger experiments that the most diseases were created in the cats that were fed powdered milk. We know in our society that a great deal of anemia is caused in children from powdered milk. So the baby was very anemic, lots of digestive problems, diarrhea all the time. I happened to go for a massage at a spa clinic there. It's the only place you can get one that isn't sexual. So that's where I have to go, even though I don't like to go to, mall-type spas like that. So I went and got a massage, and this mother was about 24 years old, had her baby there. So I got to talk with them. I went over to a nearby island, Samal, and was able to get some raw milk at a dairy there. That's where I was getting mine as I was traveling around the Philippines. And they wouldn't even rent a car to me when I told them I was going over to a certain part of the island.
Why is that?
Because they tell you it's dangerous.
Oh.
The natives will eat you alive or cooked. So I went over to the small island, got some milk. On 3 days with this baby with raw milk, the color came in. Only 3 days. All the digestive problems resolved. It was miraculous, as of course it would be.
Like he go brown?
Yes, he went brown. In 3 days, went brown. He went from toe white to as brown as you are in 3 days. Of course, the mother was as dark as you are, but the father was black. So I expect that he will, since he was a male baby, that he will go darker as he gets older because of the father. But that's my theory. Anyway, the father, the grandfather of the child, happened to be an ex-native around Mati, the villages of Mati and the islands beyond that. And he had left when he was about 20 years old, and he's about 53 now. So he was so grateful for the change in his grandson that he said he's going to give me permission, because he works for the government also, he would give me permission to go visit those tribes. And they wouldn't give him permission. So he said, I'm taking you anyway.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
yeah,
Wow.
it's great. So we had a motorcycle back on, take a boat across to the island, and then motorcycle from there with a motorcycle on the boat. And motorcycle about 5 miles in, and then hike about 5 miles. So it's a 10-mile stretch back through the mountains. And these natives, all raw. They lived on raw fish, 3 foods. That's all they ate. No variety, 3 foods. Raw fish that they fished for every day. And that's their life. They fish. And they commute, and that's their life. It's a great life. They're in retirement from Navy. They're happy people. Would surprise, and they eat coconut meat. They don't juice it. They eat the whole coconut meat. They eat the fish, and they eat a little bit of fruit, either banana or mangoes, and very little fruit. And they are full-bodied and thick. I expected them to be skinny because they lived on just raw fish, but they were all thick. I mean, thicker than I am. And I was quite impressed by all that. And the ones who were 70 and 80 years old had beautiful, thick, white teeth. Only one woman had some missing teeth, but she had a busted lip, so I assumed that was from an accident, falling out of a, coconut palm or something. Oh, I had whoever said tree spurted. I wrote a book, an agricultural book on palms years ago, and the man who helped me educate me on that said, if anybody ever says in front of you, and this is the only way I'll help you write this book, if anybody ever calls a palm a tree, you have to correct them. Trees have branches and leaves. Palms have fronds. There are no branches, so palms are not trees. Okay, I've got my commitment away. Go back to the tribe. They're palms. There's no palm tree. They're just a palm. Palm has a trunk with fronds.
Like a fern?
Fern is a palm bush. All of these people had great teeth. The 70 and 80-year-olds looked like they were 40, 45 years old. And they took me to the one of the elders who was the shaman, because of course that's who I want to talk to, the shaman, to find out their healing methods. And they don't, once in a while they eat honey, but they don't like to disturb the bees because they pollinate around. And they told me there's so much pollution, around that they're afraid to bother the bees and take their honey. So only for medicinal purposes do they use honey. They don't eat it, but they don't need it. Incredible health. So it was pretty great to finally find a primitive tribe, a truly primitive tribe lives with their self-made garments, in their own huts. And they're rather nomadic too, because they like to shift places, even though the island is only about probably 14 by 6 miles. It's about 4 miles wide and mountainous. They still like to travel around the island, and there'll be different groups of them that rotate and go around. It's something they like to do. It's part of their adventure. So that's my story from this last trip. Any questions about them that I maybe can answer, maybe not? Yes.
Did you find just that one primitive tribe?
Well, there were 2 on that particular island. And I was told to definitely don't go to the island beyond Mati, because they were definitely cannibals. There were not any cannibals.
This was on Somali?
No, no. This was
Somali.
another island. This is island beyond Mati.
But these people on Somali.
No.
Somali.
They were on the island beyond Samal.
Somali.
I don't know what the name of the island was.
So there was no
fish. No meat.
No, that's fish is meat.
I mean, no red meat.
No red meat. Once in a while, if they catch a wild pig, they'll eat it. But it's rare, because they pretty much, killed all the other animals on the island and eat them, so they just live on fish.
Who killed the
Was it a
island?
completely wild island? Were there any civilization at all?
There was no developed civilization.
Not even a hut?
There was no bicycle. There was nothing. The only one that was there was the one we took, the motor bike, the dirt bike, to get up a certain way.
Was there a little outpost or anything at all? So they completely had the island to themselves?
Completely to themselves.
And they've never been intruded on, or barely, or?
Well, government people go over there, of course, and check things out, and they do it from the air. But nobody goes to live there unless you're one of the tribe.
Well, I was interested about they were complaining about the pollution.
What kind of
They were
Well,
able to
you have to
detect it.
understand that this was off of the island of Mindanao. Mindanao, the big island, that's their biggest island, Mindanao. And this was down, if you take a trip all the way around, down over to Mati, and then there's groups of islands out there. It was those islands.
So they're aware that there was like pollution coming from the other islands.
Well, you could see it coming from
Yeah.
Mindanao, because you've got a major port in Davao there, and Davao is a big city, the biggest city on that island.
Do they use fire for anything?
I asked them that, and they said sometimes for burning brush, because they have primitive tools, so sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes if they want to seal something, and once in a while I asked them if they used any herbs, and mainly they don't use any herbs except once in a while if a cut is too large. They don't have the beef like we do to make as a patch. So fish doesn't work the same. You can't cut it in because it will dry out very quickly. And it was so great. I would go shopping in the evening, and everything was fresh out that day. This was in Davao, the city of Davao. And I mean, tuna are this big around. Wow. Swordfish that big around. And I was getting them fished and caught that day, never under ice or anything. I was eating like 3 pounds at a sitting.
Did you get the whole fish? fish.
and it was like $1.50 a pound. I was paying $5 a kilo, and it's 2 1/3 pounds, a little over 2
Did you
1/3 pounds.
get the glands in there too?
I got some glands, definitely. I got eyeballs, I got all kinds of
So Aajonus, their fat is coconut? Is that what they?
Yeah, that's what they probably, the women probably ate a half of a coconut a day, and some of the men ate up to 3/4 of a coconut a
The
day.
water, it all grows on their tree. They don't have to pay for it or anything.
Yeah, no tree, palms. And you just see them, they just shimmy up like, monkeys. It's just an everyday thing for them. One fellow who had left the tribe and gone back to the tribe, he had notches in his palms, so you could climb up easy. I guess he got out of the knack of it. It was pretty cool.
How old would they get?
Pardon?
How old do they get? Well, like, what were the oldest people?
The shaman was about probably 82 and looked about 43, 45. I looked at some of the older ones that I asked, and he said, we really can't tell you, but probably 120 years old.
Wow. Any illness at all?
None.
None?
No. Just injuries.
So how do they die? Do they just go off and die?
They just go to sleep. Die.
And that's it.
Yeah. But they're very controlled tribes. They don't have children unless the whole tribe agrees. Because when a child is born into a tribe, the child is the child of everybody in the tribe. It's not just an isolated. The child doesn't belong to the mother.
Really?
The whole tribe's the mother and father.
How many people about in the tribe?
Well, you can have sections of tribes that migrate differently because they don't like to overpopulate an area. They like to leave everything pretty unchanged when they change locations.
So how many in the group then?
Well, some of the group that I was only allowed there one day. So some of the group that I saw had been fishing, and so I got to see about 8 people, and probably were all 4 off fishing.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Oh, very small. Very small little communities. Yeah. But let's say the whole tribe is probably a couple hundred on the whole island.
And do they have schools and things like that too, or they don't do that kind of thing?
You're teaching the kids every day.
Right. No, I just didn't know
How to learn how
how
to
much
fish, they
information
learn
there
everything.
was. I
And
just
you
knew
don't
it was
need
not
to know
everything.
much.
It
If
is.
you're healthy, you don't need to know much.
I just
You
didn't
know,
how
if you don't
much
have to go to a job every day, you don't need to know much. Just survival. Food is your most important thing and your whole environment. Yes?
Were you able to take pictures?
No.
How did they do their birth control? Because you said,
If I had gotten caught with the pictures and the government found me, I would have been brought in jail. 15 years.
Wow.
15 years to get caught
For a picture?
in any of those areas.
Well, that's
For being
No,
there.
would I been, it means I would have been there. I had pictures.
birth control. Because
birth control.
it's just that whenever everybody agrees, but how do you...
They're smart. They pull. They never ejaculate in a woman unless she's on her period. Unless she's.
Was there any evidence of the use of toothbrushes?
No, they have some bark that they'll use. It's something that's stuck in their teeth, but they don't brush your teeth. And white, no receding gums, good thick red gums, and dark, almost purple red gums. Just very healthy, and the thickest, most beautiful teeth I'd ever seen. And the young to the old, no dental decay.
And no need for orthodontia.
No. Everybody had perfect teeth, perfect alignment. Some had smaller,
I've been hearing that.
Hold on. Some have a narrower, frame, and some were larger. I don't like the stuff that Weston Price put out there. That all the natives who were raw and more raw had all very large, jowls and very large bridges. I saw, it depends upon the gene, if your parents have a small mouth, then you're going to have a smaller bridge for your teeth. So those big jaws that Price talks about in his book that all have, it's not true. Some are small. Even in the Maasai tribe, I've seen some of their, mouths small and some very large, their bridges.
But they still had straight teeth.
Yes, everyone. I didn't see any. And in Dabo and all the other cities, and I visited probably 30 cities, and all the civilized, more advanced group, they had little spiked fangs some here and time, and all these crooked teeth. I mean, it was not, you could see it was not healthy. And there's people that's living in swamps, and they don't clean up, they throw their plastic, they're not taught ecology at all. And they go to the waterfalls with shampoo and put their soap in the water and stuff like that. So, I look at that and I say, they have no idea they're poisoning the fish. They don't have a clue because they're not educated. You're educated that technology, everything they give you is totally healthy.
Yeah.
The powdered milk and all of that, and it's all just a big lie.
Yeah,
And these people are getting sicker and sicker.
In the 70s, in southern Mexico, they were feeding all the babies powdered milk, and they were dying.
Yeah.
And we'd have to hold them in water, try to get water in their bodies. It was
Just
horrible.
to get them to hydrate.
Yeah,
a little bit,
yeah, because the mothers thought that, well, from the U.S., this powdered milk comes,
Absolutely.
so we're not going to nurse anymore. Yeah, it was terrible.
It's very sad. It's very ugly.
And they were overrun with parasites.
Well, that's because they eat all the carbohydrates and toxic food.
Right, because they were living on toxins.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to understand, I have eaten meat since September of 76, raw meat, and have eaten parasite-infested meat at least 23 times out of 10,000 times that I've eaten raw meat. And I remember I have a vagotomy, so I have no hydrochloric acid that dumps into my stomach, and I have never gotten once a parasite connected with meat. I got a parasite one time, and I induced that with fermenting milk way beyond what it should be into an alcohol with maca root. And I got a tapeworm, and tapeworm lives on sugar. That's why all these third world countries who get these cereals and powdered milk given to them, mix it in water, they all get these tapeworms, because the tapeworm isn't eating their intestines, they're eating the excess carbohydrate. And if a person's only getting carbohydrate and they're human, of course, the parasite needs to eat the food so that the body doesn't degenerate with all the advanced glycation end product, because it will just melt it. So those tapeworms for those people, especially children who eat cereals and powdered milk in Africa and Asia, anywhere like that, they have those parasites because of that particular diet. Mm-hmm. So don't give any aid, don't give donations to those companies that do that, and most of them do it. You ask them, if you're giving welfare packages to these people, what are you buying for them? Most of them make a deal with Purina, Kellogg's, General Mills, and General Foods on all the discarded bad product they can't sell in this country. They sell it to these welfare companies, these good-meaning companies, the worst food in the world, and they send it over and give it to these children. And what it does is it kills them. Bangladesh, all those places. It kills them. They want to wipe them out to take over their resources. It's called, it's food warfare is basically what it is. And if you think the intention isn't that, look at what they did to the American Indian. You have to say, you're right here in this country, and you look at what they did to them. They wouldn't let them cook. I mean, they wouldn't let them eat raw. They made them eat grains and flour and not eat good meat. They put them in deserts where nothing grows properly, no meat. So you have to take a look at that. They would give them flour and lard.
Blankets with smallpox.
Yep. Yeah, and if they got caught farming, they would be killed. So It wasn't until the 1930s where some of that started changing, but 26 million American Indians were already wiped out. Poisoning and killing, of course, guns and whatever they could do, however they could kill them. And that's what you have to think about these people who go into power and governments.
Yeah.
They think that war is okay. History tells us war is okay, and that, it's okay to become, Caesar or somebody like that who wants to dominate and control the world. So, and that's cool to do that, and that's acceptable. And you can do anything to the people you want to. You can murder them, you can rape and pillage, because it's war. And they'll always find some reason, we go to war for God. They've got a different God than we do. They don't believe we do the way we do, and they're going to kill us. Same thing they're doing with the Muslims. So, so it goes on. The Russians were coming, remember?
Cold War.
There's no Russians coming, never was.
Yeah.
It's a way to keep the blue market, the blue chip market going, selling munitions and keeping the huge war industry moving. The war industry in this country, just for gasoline, the oil barrels that we burn for our military all over the world, is 183 million barrels a day.
Oh my God.
Just for our military. That's big money. They like it. They're not going to let it go. And they'll kill anybody to do it, including you. Anybody in this room, even if you're an American. Okay. Let's get into questions and answers. We've got a lot of people here. So I'm going to start with Gail. You have a question?
Yes. So recently, inside of the eggs, when I open them, I'm finding if they started to turn, I'm finding like a mildew or a mold, and I don't think I've ever seen that before. Did I just miss seeing that?
Yeah, they're getting a little older. They all do that. In China, if you go to China and buy the century eggs, they're either black mold that have converted from, you have bacteria that breaks it down first, and then the mold eats the bacteria and keeps breaking it down to a finite powder. So whenever you buy those eggs, they're either all black mold or all white mold. So that's normal. It means you've got a very advanced one.
So they might be 3 or 4 weeks older than...
Right. Even longer.
So, but it's still okay to eat those eggs?
Absolutely.
And is it good?
Just remember that mold breaks down eggs the same way that bacteria does. So it just predigests it for you, just like Acidophilus, Bulgarius, Coccocycus, all of those break down the different elements within foods. So they just predigest it for you. If you understand how your digestive tract works, it won't be so unusual for you. But we live on piss and shit. Period. That's what we live on. We eat food, the hydrochloric acid and other acids break up the large particles of food. Bacteria go in and feed on them. Their excrement and secretions are our food. That is the law of nature. That is the law of the digestive tract. That's the way it works. If we had to rely only on our digestive acids, your brain and nervous system would never be fed. Only your muscles and glands, and they wouldn't be fed a balanced whole diet either, because you don't break all of your proteins down. You don't get all 22 amino acids without having bacteria pre-digested. You get about 18, and that means 5 very important essential amino acids. It's kind of redundant, important, essential. Just trying to stress a point. 5 important amino acids, essential acids, you will not have and will not be fed. And that will affect your mind, your thinking, your behavior, energy level, everything. So just remember that bacteria has to pre-digest everything, or it has to digest it. Your acids only fractionate the food into smaller cells. Then the bacteria eats those cells. Their excrement is our food. Okay? So don't worry about the molds. You know, on cheese, I will scrape the top off because those are mushrooms, and mushrooms contain a lot of spores. And we're not healthy enough to handle those because we're not used to it, so it could cause a major detoxification. So I don't mind the molds inside the cheese because that's the way cheeses are made. Cheeses are made to be molded. When you have American cheeses, they never touch mold. It's just processed milk that goes through a heat and pasteurization, homogenation process, all chemically induced. But true cheeses were always put in caves to let the molds in the caves pre-digest them for us. The reason for that was milk was, they would have herds and have excess milk that they didn't get to sell. So if they ate the cheese raw, it wouldn't digest properly. It would just go through the body. Sometimes diarrhea, a lot of times constipation. So they learned that if they put the cheeses in caves and let the mold eat them, they could digest the cheese. So when you have mold on your cheese, like when you get them from the Amish, they mold fast. They get hairy fast. You just scrape off the top so you're not getting all the spores, and then eat the cheese.
On the bottom too?
Everywhere.
The white stuff.
All of it, yeah.
So they
If you look at it under a microscope, you'll see that they're mushrooms. They're spores from the mycelium that breaks down the cheese. And again, if we were healthy, the mold wouldn't be a problem. We'd be used to it, and we'd be digesting the mold. But right now, we don't have a digestive tract that's strong enough for that. So we'll end up with constipation or diarrhea. All right. Do you have a question?
Nothing that's general, just the specific ones that I sent you on that.
Those have to be at personal level. Yeah. Except for one, you could ask me one if you want. One person.
Let's see, at the fish meal,
Uh-huh.
and then you said something about also adding chicken, a portion of chicken to that.
Yes.
Do I always add the chicken white meat to the fish?
As often as you will, you'll regenerate nerve tissue faster that way. I gave her a diet a couple days ago, so she missed some things. So I asked her to eat a little bit of chicken when she ate fish. She mainly to eat fish. It was also to help regenerate, nerve tissue and some other things, and the intestinal tract. And if you eat a little bit of chicken with the fish, like maybe a quarter of that meal, a fowl with the fish, then you'll regenerate tissue a little bit faster. Do you have a question, Louis?
Yes.
You're wearing a red shirt. Never mind.
Merry Christmas.
Go ahead.
For those of us that are using the toothpaste formula, after brushing, how often does one use a water pick to rinse it, and is that necessary?
Okay. I came up with a new formula about probably a year ago, and it's 1 tablespoon of coconut cream, 2 teaspoons of Terramin clay, and 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of raw apple cider vinegar. Now the great thing about this is that it actually whitens teeth, as well as just rips the plaque off of the teeth, just melts it, dissolves it away, without damaging the dentine unless you brush too often with it. Once a day is fine.
Sorry, what was that? Recipe?
1 tablespoon of coconut cream, 2 teaspoons of Terramin clay, and 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of raw apple cider vinegar. And you brush it down, into the gums. All of these big toothbrushes I don't think are good. I think you should get one of those baby toothbrushes, very soft, and just brush, work that down in there, and it will dissolve the plaque so you don't have to have deep root cleanings. And I have found that I haven't had to use my water pick maybe every 3 months or something like that, and do that routine that I talk about on WeWantToLive.com, in the where I talked about the formula for getting deep down and removing the plaque and other tars. And also found that when you use this particular formula, that it helps gums reverse the receding. And in the last 4 months, I've also experimented with bone marrow, and applying bone marrow and rubbing it into the gums and even brushing it into the gums will bring the gums back almost a half of a millimeter overnight.
I'll have a millimeter coming out.
You know, you got receding gums,
Right.
Yeah.
come right back.
But when you say brush it in,
Brush it your gum.
You know, you take the bone marrow and you get it soft and wet, it's like it's fat. You can either rub it up in with your fingers and push it up in, or you can take a toothbrush and brush it up in the gums.
Is that because it's stem cells?
Yeah, because of the stem cells. The only 3 places we can find good stem cells that will work are from bone marrow, sperm, and ovum. Very difficult to farm ovum. Anybody want to volunteer? And most of the sperm is not coming from real healthy men, but it still works. You know, but the bone marrow coming from an organic animal is terrific, phenomenal. Does anybody know, what's her name? At Rawson?
Erica?
Pardon?
Is it Erica?
Erica. She's been on a diet a long time, but she's one of those women that never would gain excess weight. So she always stayed strong, trim, never got enough fat to remove all the dryness that she had, especially in the face. And the reason the face shrivels up faster on everybody is because of the heavy metals. Most of the metallic minerals go to the brain and nervous system because the brain and nervous system use most of the metallic minerals to conduct electricity and transfer light. So we have most of the metallic poisons are free radicals in the brain. When they dump out the gums, the tongue, the salivary glands, and that draws the fats out of the face, so the face shrivels. So even though she filled up and wasn't dry anywhere else, she never had enough to refill her face. Been on the diet probably 7 years, maybe 8. I suggested that she be one of my guinea pigs and use, bone marrow on her face. In 3 months, almost all the dryness was gone. 90% or 85% of her wrinkles gone.
How often?
3 months.
So
She did it 3
what's
days
your
a week.
routine? Yeah.
She did it 3 days a week.
Just
Bone
rub
marrow's
it in and leave it?
expensive.
Just
Yeah,
rub
you leave
it
it.
in your face.
Absolutely, you leave it.
How long?
Yeah.
so you do it
As long as you're using it fresh, you get them weekly,
But in the morning, you
then
rinse your
they
face.
won't stink.
So you do it at
Oh, I'm
night.
going to do that.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, you rinse your face.
Pardon?
Could you put water on your face in the morning?
You can wash your face and then put it on after you wash your face.
So she.
I wash only with coconut cream, fermented coconut cream. It's the best soap.
So
No
only
chemical.
fermented, not regular cocoa cream?
Well, if you use regular cocoa cream, it won't be quite as soapish because the fermentation, the alcohols in it, help make it a soap.
So you
To clean
ferment
off.
it by leaving it out.
Yeah, I just leave it out on the counter with no refrigeration. I do leave a top on it.
How many days?
3-4 days. And then
Leave
it'll
it
start.
loose?
It'll have a bad odor. It'll go through a period of a foul odor. Not real foul, but a foul odor. After about 9 to 10 days, it goes back to a nice odor. The coconut odor again, or the fragrance. So, well, that was to help cleanse it, but I don't suggest Gerolsteiner anymore unless you can get it in glass.
I'm trying. The woman they said to me when I called, we do send it in plastic and glass, so I have to call her again tonight and see what she
Well, I haven't
says.
seen it in this country. Every other country I've seen it in glass, but not in this country.
At Whole Foods, they have it in glass.
Which Whole Foods? Which Whole Foods?
The one in Sherman Oaks, they have it in glass. They have it in glass and plastic.
Now
Well,
they
you
have
have
it
a
in
choice.
glass, see?
Yeah, the glass is very expensive.
Really?
They sell for over $2.
That's Gerolsteiner? Oh, it is. Two different bottles.
Yeah,
like that. And which
See?
one?
Lincoln and Rose in Venice.
Lincoln and
Right
Rose.
on Rose. You know what's
Okay,
called
new one, right near Rawson.
So is this, so they came back with it.
Oh, that's
Well,
Also, then I-
that one has, quiet everyone. That one has more carbonation. Gerolsteiner well has more carbonation than any other well
It's
on
a
the
good
planet.
carbonation, right?
Please.
Oh.
Okay? So if you keep interrupting, we're going to be here till midnight. So I hate to be rude to you like that, but in every well, like San Pellegrino, Apollinaris, Gerolsteiner, Perrier, in the wells you have a water table, and then you have a gaseous table. They are never together. They shoot them together. So the carbon is always added to the water, but it's a natural carbon. And those that don't say naturally carbonated, if they say carbonated natural water, or carbonated naturally, or something, carbonated naturally is okay, because they're using the carbon from the well instead of the synthesized carbon like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all your other soda companies do. Now, Perrier's used up all their carbon, and they had no way to keep reproducing, so they went to Gerolsteiner, and they got a deal where they buy their carbon, and then they Perrier's carbon is very low, San Pellegrino's and Faustino's is rather low. Apollinaris is the next best to Gerolsteiner if you want a lot of natural carbonation in yours. And the carbonation, what it can do is it can bleach out certain toxins in your blood. It's a natural, what is that called? No, it's not a chelator. It's a detoxifier. It'll help break down substances. I'll think of it in a few minutes. I need to suck an egg. Anybody have an egg?
Yes,
I was out of eggs.
Right here.
Where's my supplier? You got an egg in there? Oh, there. You got them? Okay, and he brought some milk and some cream. Abraham brought some milk, cream, and stuff like that from Rawsome and eggs. Did you bring more than 2 dozen?
Yeah.
2 dozen are mine. Okay. And you have coconut cream. He has some things that you can buy when we finish here, okay?
Buffalo testicles.
Oh, yeah? Buffalo balls?
I know it. Because they said they never would bring us back in the glass, the girls.
The natural hydrogen peroxide. All I do is start sucking eggs and my brain goes, hey. So that's the story on the carbonation. Okay.
Yes, quickly, then as far as water picking, you do it only once every 3 months, is that what you said?
Well, I waited that long to see how long I would think that I would need it, but I didn't really need it.
Okay.
But I still do it anyway, because I have very deep pockets. You know, if I don't know how many of you remember from some of my writings that after radiation therapy, the bone around my teeth completely dissolved, so my teeth dangled in my gums. So if I bit down on my own teeth, I would bleed. So I was getting sometimes 2 transfusions a week. I was still eating my blood, but I wasn't digesting it very well. And also with the radiation therapy, it damaged my ability to create red blood cells, and that's what gave me leukemia, the blood and bone cancer. So I was still getting transfusions from that. After drinking the raw milk and raw carrot juice for 1.5 years, all the bone came back, but my gums have always been very receded. Only recently, with these new things that I've been playing with, have my gums been restored. And you see, this one is not that. See how deep it is way down there? All of them are like that. And you can see my teeth are coming back up and down. Gums. So, with the bone marrow, you know, and also could have something to do with that toothpaste formula too. I haven't isolated it to see which one helps promote more. I think they work together pretty well. But I don't know how many of you remember last year my teeth were turning very yellow and black, and they had been for like 12, 15 years, and you see now they're starting to turn white again, just from that toothpaste formula.
Great.
So who needs toxic, peroxide, to bleach your teeth and damage your dentine and your tubules.
You don't refrigerate that formula, though?
Yes, it's good to refrigerate it because if you don't use it within a week, the vinegar loses its strength. I've tried it both ways, and it does work better refrigerated. It still works, but it works a little bit better to dissolve the plaque. If I did use it out of the maintain it out of the refrigerator, I probably would have to pick once every 3 weeks to a month. If you refrigerate and allow the vinegar to stay more potent and active, then probably won't have to, deep clean with
Soak it right out of the refrigerator, or do you need to wait and let it warm up first?
Depends on your teeth if you're sensitive. I put it in right away. Your mouth can warm it.
Okay, no problem.
You normally don't refrigerate apple cider vinegar, though, right?
No, but when this mixture, yes.
Yeah.
Because the coconut cream and all of that, those three together, for some reason it neutralizes the vinegar.
It goes for even foot working for your feet, callus, because you said coconut cream and vinegar the same.
Yeah, if you mix them, pre-mix them.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually you put them when you have a wart or a callus.
Yeah.
Usually put maybe lime juice on it first, let it soak in for 3 minutes. Then you can put vinegar on top of that, and then coconut cream on top of that. It's probably a 10-minute process. Let each one soak in for about 3 minutes.
On your foot you're talking about.
Yeah, anywhere you have a callus or mole or wart. Okay.
And how often should I water pick? Or is
It's an individual thing. You just,
a personal choice?
if you go down there and pull up some plaque, and
All
it's
right.
not soft,
All right.
then after you brush, if you find plaque, then that's time to water pick. Yeah. Do you have a question?
I have a little tumor at my temple here, and it's broken the skin, and you say in your book that you should not eat any fruit, and I'm wondering if in the category of fruit you include coconut and tomato.
No. No, those are fine. And if you've got a surface cancer, put vinegar on it. Put lime juice, vinegar, and coconut cream.
Lime juice?
Lime, 3 minutes. Coconut cream, vinegar, 3 minutes, and coconut cream on top of that for 20 minutes. Don't wipe it off for a while. Okay. I've gotten rid of about 30 skin tumors within 3 months. We're working with that with people.
So you do them separately and one on top of the other finally?
One on top of the other. You
coconut
can rinse
cream.
them off in between. You let one soak in and the other soak in. And then finally the coconut cream doesn't soak in right away. It takes 30 minutes or so, before it gets a little sticky. And then you can just wipe it off, but don't rinse it off. You want to maintain it. Okay, do you have a question, Allison?
Sure, Aajonus. I'm wondering what more I can do. I'm eating bone marrow to tighten up my right front tooth. It's still pretty loose, and
Are you tucking the
I'm trying to
into
do
the
that
gum?
as best I can, but my gum is not really lifting up that much to be able to put it in there. But I did get a separate keyboard. I was sitting too close to my laptop, and I'm very sensitive to the electromagnetic stuff. So since I'm a lot further away from the computer, that seems to be helping me, because it seemed as though as soon as I was in front of the computer, it would loosen up again.
Yeah.
It's like it was radiating.
Radiation. That's what I said. Radiation caused my bone loss around my teeth. So if you've got a computer screen or an EMF field from a laptop and you're typing right off of your laptop, you're going to get a huge EMF field, anywhere from 35 gauss to 130 milligauss. 130 milligauss. That's very, very strong. 3 milligauss is all it takes to alter the structure of human cells. And you're dealing with a high level, so you get a separate keyboard, plug it in, and keep it about 8 inches away. The bottom of the laptop to the top of your keyboard should be about 6.5, 7 inches away. So your fingers never get within 8 inches of the bottom of the the keyboard.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Now
far
some of
away
the
from
Macs are lower, and the NEC laptops have a lower EMF field than others. Mitsubishi and some of the others, Japanese brands, are really high. My Acer, Ferrari, I got it for the speed and for the Acer is a brand. Okay, so mine is very high. Mine shoots up to about 90 milligauss. So I have mine a whole 10 inches away from my laptop.
So I'm eating my bone marrow, and I'm trying to massage that up in there. Is there anything else I can do? Like, how much bone marrow should I have a day?
Well, just to help that's just a matter of making sure you're getting a little bit and packing it frequently. But yours has been, damaged a long time, 6-7 years?
Oh, yeah.
Or longer?
Yeah.
So it's going to take a while, because it's going to have to go in and start regrowing roots and all kinds of things for yours to return.
Because I had several root canals up in here, so it's like the tooth underneath is dead.
Oh, so we're just looking for the bone to grow back over the dead tooth, so that may be a little difficult. But just work with it and keep trying and let me know how it goes.
Okay.
It seems to be the same length now, because it usually got longer.
Yeah, it's shooting backwards, and this tooth I noticed is actually shooting outward, and I'm getting this face here. It's very weird. I didn't have that before. Like a year ago, I didn't have that. So I don't know.
Well, it's because it's moving.
Yeah.
That one's so free.
It's so free. Okay.
So just keep working and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, do you have a question?
My family has a dog, which is about 9 years old.
Can you speak up?
Sorry, yeah.
I'll repeat it.
She's about 9 years old, and about a year ago she started growing this big bone tumor on her nose, and since then it's got, it closed up her left eye, and the eye rolled back, kind of. And she's been mostly on dog food. But for 4 months now, I think, I've been feeding her ground chicken mix and liver and eggs. And
all raw?
Yeah, all raw. And she was really overweight. She lost some weight, and her coat looks really good and everything. And her teeth look better, but the bone tumor seems to be getting loose. So.
Well, dogs and cats are hard to reverse cancer. In fact, I find it's almost impossible, because dogs and cats do not perspire except out their nose, tongue, and anus. So they can't secrete all the poisons. So if you feed them any kind of processed food, they have a lot of metallic minerals in them, a lot of preservative, a lot of food coloring, a lot of stuff that dogs and cats don't normally eat. So they are probably the most toxic creatures on this planet, even more so than humans, if they're fed kibble and canned foods. So it's very hard to reverse cancer. Normally what happens is you put them on a good diet. She has a dog that's about 9 years old that has a tumor. Been mainly on cooked foods, but for the last 4 months she's been feeding it raw foods. The coat's better, the dog's healthier, everything's better, but the tumor isn't disappearing, and it's closed an eye. And it's probably the situation is that the dog is going to have to live with the cancer, but healthier. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering what you would say are the most important nutritional factors for kind of mental focus and maintaining a good mental well-being, kind of, focus and just
raw eggs and raw fish and raw chicken. Those are what I used to keep on. And in a pinch, an egg will do it. But I could eat eggs all day long, and without eating any, fish or beef or any kind of flesh food. And then I would find that I still had more difficulty recalling. Just remember, I was autistic. My short-term memory was like this. It took me 8 years of hearing things over and over again to be able to start mimicking them, and then I didn't do it well. probably 10 years old before I was able to mimic well. And then I mimicked what was around me. Shut up, sit down, you're an idiot, you're stupid. So I take that to the other kids and the teachers in class. And of course I was always being disciplined because I was a smart ass. Who knew? So those particular foods are the most important for clarity. And not eating high carbohydrate foods for the first 6 hours that you're awake. Because your body builds, if you're on a good diet and not packing down fruits and the carbohydrates, your body will make, in the first 6 to 7 hours, all of the glycogen that will be used to run the brain and nervous system in those first 6 to 7 hours. If you eat high carbohydrate fruit or foods, even carrot juice, any of those, have too much, then your body will make the glycogen from carbohydrates, and you'll have a lot of advanced glycation end product that stores in the body, causes malclarity of thinking. So if you eat proteins and stick with, milk and stuff like that, where there's not a high sugar value, then you make the glycogen from pyruvate with the help of glucagon. So it's you only have 7 to 8% advanced glycation end product with that formation, and we can handle 12% in a day. So there's no storage. When your body makes the glycogen from carbohydrates, you have a 70 to 90% storage of advanced glycation end products. And they collect in the body, and that feeds cancer nicely.
But the vegetable juice doesn't count as a high-carb food per se.
Just remember that, like I said in the recipe book, celery doesn't have enough carbohydrate to digest itself. It is a negative. So even if you have carrot juice in, let's say you have 25% carrot juice and 25% carrot, you've brought the sugar level way down to less than half. So it's not a high carbohydrate because you're not having that much. If it's 25% of your juice, let's say that's 3 tablespoons of carrot juice or 5 tablespoons of carrot juice, and then you've got the same amount of celery, it's going to offset it, and you're not going to have much carbohydrate there to generate it.
Raw honey, is that again, you consider high carbohydrate?
As long as it's unheated and not heated over 93 degrees, it will not be a carbohydrate. Some people even have digestive abilities and will convert honey into a carbohydrate, but most people do not. When the bee collects the nectar, the bee swallows the honey, and the nectar pre-digests it, gives it back to the hive, and it produces an insulin-like substance which converts 90% of the carbohydrate into enzymes to digest proteins and fats. So most of the time you will not have a high sugar ratio from it. If you get very sleepy after eating honey, then you don't metabolize it well. When the bees get back to the hive, they vomit. And that's what honey is. Honey is bee vomit. So you can't be afraid of all these things. What were you drinking?
This is the sport drink.
The sport drink?
Just now. I mean, I started coughing before. I thought this might help.
Gargle with it. Did you have some fat in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I didn't want you to gargle unless there was fat in it.
Yeah, there's that.
Just gargle a little bit. Okay, do you have a question?
I was at the Whole Foods market a couple of weeks ago, and they were promoting a new fish oil. They're saying it's extracted differently, molecular distillation, they call it, different from chemical or heat extraction, Arctic cod oil. I was wondering if it was truly different.
Even if you have EMs, eat at it, and you have there's a certain FDA regulations for fish oil. Would you soak your peaches or your fish in kerosene for 29 minutes before you eat it? Soak it for 29 minutes and then wash it off. Would you eat? Did you eat it? Do you think that kerosene is going to etch its way deep into that peach or that fish? Absolutely. Kerosene is natural. So they can say, oh, we process it naturally. Well, what does that mean? Yeah, kerosene is natural, but it's also a poison. So is wood alcohol. So those are the two things they use. Kerosene derivative and wood alcohol or wood alcohol derivative. So none of it's anything that's processed like that is and has to be cleaned by FDA standards is not really organic, and it's not a good thing. Back in, all through the 70s and 60s, if you got fish oil back then, it was only pressed and fermented like they do with coconut to separate it with no heat. So it's like 82 degrees is the highest that the fish oil ever got. It was stinky, it was smelly, it had proteins in it, so it was gunky looking, it was mucousy looking with all this white film in it. But now the FDA requires it to be crystal clean and clear of all proteins. And to do that, it takes chemical process. They say, oh, we can do it centrifugally. You cannot separate the protein centrifugally. It's impossible. You have to have a solvent to do it. And it's either a kerosene derivative or a wood alcohol derivative.
That goes for cod liver oil as well?
That's right. All of it. You get your oils from fish. You assimilate them better anyway. Because you have to understand, just like in coconut cream is better to eat than coconut oil. Because your coconut oil only has your water-soluble vitamins and enzymes. Your coconut has the water, and fish have all of the water-soluble fats, which is almost 70% of the fat. Well, if you're talking about 70% of the food itself. Coconut is 80% fat, 15% protein, 5% carbohydrate. So the fat ratio in a coconut is 6 to 10%. 9% is an average. Coconut meat, yeah. So you have to get the coconut oil, you have to juice the coconut meat. You have to let it ferment to separate it, or use a centrifugal process to let the oils separate from the water-soluble fats. And those are not a balanced diet. That's not a balanced diet. Coconut cream is the best thing to eat, not coconut oil.
What about that fermented cod liver oil thing that everybody knows?
They have to clean the protein out of it.
So this
you have to clean the protein out of it. You have to use a chemical. And these people will lie to you. Why? Because the chemistry lab is lying to them. They go and say, we've got this krill oil, we've got, cod oil. We want you to make it naturally. And the chemistry lab wants the business to say, oh, we can do that naturally. But you're obviously the guy, unless he's a chemist at the production house that wants the vitamin or supplement or oil made for him. If he does not a chemist, he doesn't know that kerosene or wood alcohol is used. He doesn't have a clue. So they can lie to you all day and they'll be sincere. And they'll be honest. Because somebody's lied to them.
I've been using a raw cod liver oil.
No such thing.
Well,
you've been told it's raw, but it isn't.
Well, it's a newer product. I'm being told it's raw.
From Green Pastures?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not. They use oils in it, processed oils in it as preservatives. Now, 3 years ago, I worked with them for a whole year to get this right, and they put it out, but it would only maintain for 6 months. So then they started putting other oils in, which are heavily processed. Wipes out 2/3 of the oil. And you're putting toxic oils in your body at the same time. So, go along. Pardon?
My children won't be pleased.
Yeah. So they don't like it?
No, they're taking it. Tell them it's going to make them incredibly strong, so they take it.
No, it won't. Not in the long run. It'll screw up their brains because that kerosene and stuff will get into the brain. Okay, back there. Yes.
I'll probably, I imagine, needing to come to you for this very specific problem, but just in general.
Let me wave it. There are 2 spaces up here where chairs can go.
No, I'm coming back.
Oh, okay. Well, still 2 places here. Another one could be over here. I'll move this over. In fact, I'm enjoying standing, so somebody can sit in this one. Then you take here, put this here. Somebody can sit there. Another one here. Let me put this in front of you like that. Okay, that's it up here.
One more?
Not up here.
Okay.
Oh, wait, somebody was coming back.
Young woman
She's
is
sitting on the floor there. Unless you want this one.
No.
Elaine.
No. I like sitting on
Like sitting on the floor. Okay, there's an empty seat up here if anybody wants to come and sit. Okay. Elena, let that person walk through here first. Okay, anybody who didn't pay, get out your $30, please. I know there's quite a few people that walked in late. And do me a favor, and is Jim back there?
I'm here.
Oh, Jim, you want to collect the $30 from those people who came in late?
Here, Jim.
Please.
All right. Let me just go through here if I can. Thank you. That's good enough.
There you go. There's one more seat here if anybody wants to get a front row seat. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started again. All right, let's...
Jim?
Kathy.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd really like to get off my Paxil medication. And I can see, I've eaten only raw the last 2 years, and the last 3 months, after finding your books, I've been eating raw meat, raw fish, etc. It's really helped me with social anxiety and everything just in that short amount of time. But when I've tried to get off Paxil before, I had a nervous breakdown, and I mean, I think it was my adrenal gland going insane.
Well, you have to understand that when you take any of those psychotropic drugs, there is an element purposely they put in it for you to have withdrawal symptoms, because they want you to stay on them. In laboratory animals, it causes murder. They go around killing each other. All of those high school killings, all of those kids had stopped taking their meds anywhere from 7 to 12 days. And it causes violent, antisocial behavior. So you have to understand that when you go off of those, you have to just take a chip. Every few days, just take a chip of it. Just to keep you from detoxifying it all at once. Just take a little chip.
And, I mean, you've seen people who eat raw food.
Completely off. I had one woman who was taking 27 a day. 27 psychotropic pills a day for 18 years. She went on Ripley's Believe It or Not with me to show that eating the high meat makes you happy. So eat high meat. Just remember that if you've got depression, if you've got a psychological problem, your E. coli is low or being destroyed. E. coli is the final stage of digestion, like I said. It digests the fats and the proteins to the finite molecular structure to feed the brain and the nervous system. If you have a psychological problem, 90% of the time it's because you don't have good E. coli. You can eat high meat, like I said earlier, which pre-digests the meat the same way your E. coli does. So when you eat the high meat, 10 to 20 minutes later you're giggling. You're happy, you're high. Because the brain and nervous system get fed like that within 20 minutes. I've had over 2,000 people experiment and do it, and only one said it didn't affect him one way or the other. He wasn't depressed anyway. So who cared? But this woman and another fellow who had a lot of psychological problems, and the woman was taking all those psychotropic drugs, 27 a day, so she was completely off of them. And she had done the diet on and off for almost 2 years, and it was like a roller coaster with her. So I said, you've got to take the honey, you've got to try it once. If you can't do it, if you have a problem with it, well, I'll keep on with you the hard road. But you need to try this just for my gratification. You need to help yourself as well as me. So she finally did it, and just that quickly in one night, she was a different person.
But she probably has to continue to eat it, doesn't she?
Pardon?
She probably has to continue to eat it to kind of...
Yeah, to eat the diet, yeah. She had to do it pretty strictly for about 2 years, a year and a half. Now she changes. She still has some psychological problems, but doesn't have to medicate for it. And she does the diet maybe 60% now. Wouldn't be enough for me. I'm not satisfied. I don't want any psychological problems. No way. There's another empty chair if somebody wants to come and sit up here.
Just so you know, there's an empty chair. Actually, there's 2 empty chairs.
2 empty chairs there.
There's 2 bathrooms. It's very tight quarters. We understand, but we hope you'll bear with us.
This is nice and cozy.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Barbara and Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
We do that at the end, but she opened it. Okay, do you have a question? You? No? Okay. Barbara, do you have a question?
Sure. During the nighttime, I get up and down, as you can imagine. And I know I'm not supposed to go more than 5 hours without...
I'm listening.
Yeah. And I know I'm not supposed to get more than 5 hours without eating of some sort because of cancer, etc. But what I do, normally Jim sets aside for me in the bathroom the milk, egg, honey, herbs, the herbs you have me on, and so forth. And I just sort of drink them all together. I don't blend them or anything. I just sort of plunk the egg into the milk, swish it around, drink it down, a little honey, a little lemon, a little butter. I don't do a great ceremony, plus I don't want to wake him up while I'm doing all of this. So I'm just wondering if that's kosher.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Sometimes if they're pre-mixed, the bacteria will get stronger and break it down so you digest it easier. So if you make it before you go to sleep, mix them, it will be a little bit more beneficial.
Bacteria will break it down.
Start breaking it down before you even get to drinking it. Yeah. Of course, if you keep it in your mouth a little bit, you're going to get a lot of bacteria. We have 2,300 bacteria in the mouth. We've got more bacteria than dogs and cats in the mouth. So don't get bit by a human.
I'll try to remember that.
So if you have chewing is not the greatest thing to get too much saliva with meat, but milk and any of those others, it's better to get lots of bacteria.
Oh, and by the way, why isn't it good to get too much saliva with meat?
Well, depends upon the individual. We all have ptyalin enzyme. Ptyalin enzyme is very strong in the horse and in humans. And the horse also developed it when we started feeding them grain. The humans developed it when we started eating grain, 10,000 years ago. So it's an alkaline enzyme. So if we have too much ptyalin enzyme, it can neutralize some of the acids.
Too much can neutralize. Okay.
Yeah. So just quickly swallow.
Interfere with digestion. 2, 3, 4 chews. That's all.
And then swallow.
People who chew it, 100 times, they're not going to digest much, even though they've done all that chewing. So remember, your hydrochloric acid breaks everything up and dissolves it. It's an acid. It goes and dissolves and breaks it up, so your bacteria in your intestines can eat it. And of course, if you enter some of that bacteria, saliva's full of it. So, 2, 3, 4, 5 bites, chews, and you've got a lot of bacteria in your meat already. You continue to chew it, and then the thymin starts to mount up. Probably when you're very healthy after 30 years on the diet, it won't. But right now, our body's used to eating carbohydrates, and we chew carbohydrates more than anything else unless it's bread. Something soft or pasta or something like that. Okay, and cooked starch. Do you have a question?
I didn't get a question. I was back there. Okay. I have a chance to get some raw goat's milk from a nearby farmer, and I can get it never refrigerated. Now, how much better is that going to be for me than refrigerated cow's milk that I have been drinking, that I let sit out? And how should I treat the raw goat's milk? Can I just, let's say I get it the day after I get a couple gallons delivered to me. I just let them sit out, never put them in the refrigerator, and just drink from them. Is the meat value that never refrigerated milk has, is that just going to be evident for the first day or so, or does that kind of increase? Is there a point where it loses that value of never being refrigerated? And what is the defined value of never being refrigerated for milk? Are certain enzymes and bacteria killed by refrigerating, or are they just dormant? Is this going to be a great value to me to have found a source of unrefrigerated goat's milk that I can use? Okay. I imagine it will sit around for a week before I drink it.
Right. He's a good lad. Everybody heard everything he's asked. Good. Because that's a lot to answer. Time to answer your question. The questions on the whole subject, it takes a book. So, anyway, goat's milk is good for people who are overweight or have sugar problems. If you're underweight, goat's milk has adrenal precursors and will cause you to be more hyperactive and very difficult to gain weight. Have anybody ever seen a fat goat? Seen a fat cow? Yeah. Okay. Right. And there's the difference. I've never been able to get anybody to get fat and be healthier on goat's milk unless they were already fat and had diabetes or some other sugar problem. And there, the goat's milk is preferable. Now, any milk that's refrigerated loses its ability to increase cellular division, which means reproduction of cells. Cells in our bodies divide, become twins, and grow up, have twins, and grow up, and that's mature, and that's how our body grows. They don't have eggs. They don't have a full, birth of a finished organism. They divide. The cells actually just split, and then they grow up and become new cells. Mitosis. Pardon? Mitosis. Exactly. If I had to give all the good terms, then we're going to be here all night. So in milk, once you refrigerate it, it loses its exponential ability to promote cellular division.
But why would it need to divide cellularly? Why would milk need to divide cellularly?
It doesn't divide cellularly. It promotes it in us.
Oh, I see.
Okay. When we eat it, we can do that as long as it's unrefrigerated. And it doesn't drop below 72 degrees.
Oh, wow. When we get our milk, it's cold.
Yep. So it's lost that ability, so we have to rely upon meats. Meats that are frozen are the same way. They no longer will promote rapid cellular division. So the raw milk and the frozen meat can still help regenerate cells that are already alive, but it won't promote speedy cellular division.
What do we need cell division for?
To get younger and healthier and stronger. Most people are walking around half dead. When you see an old person walking across the street like this, how many cells do you think are alive in their body? 25%? Holding up the whole weight. And then they're not well at the same time. So if a person gets on a raw diet with raw meat and unfrozen raw meats and unfrozen or unrefrigerated milk, raw dairy, they will be able to divide cells and get stronger and healthy, have more cells, be able to do more.
But is the milk going to be like raw meat, where if it sits for 2 weeks, it's going to...
No, it won't.
Okay.
It will reach a point where it turns into cheese and separates so much that won't happen. And that takes about... In cow's milk, I've never done it with goat's milk, but when I get cow's milk unrefrigerated, I keep the house, or that area, the room that I keep the milk in, at 72 degrees. And it just sits there. And it, if I put a little honey in it, it'll start fermenting a little faster, and it'll come into kefir in about 5 to 6 days. If I put, let's say, a whole tablespoon in a gallon of milk, it will ferment in 3 days and I'll kefir. But that's too fast. So
but that kefir in 5 to 6 days, if it's never refrigerated milk,
it will still help regenerate
cells. Okay.
Exactly.
Should I turn down this goat milk, or should I take it?
You don't have any fat on you. Very little.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you have some of it.
So I get 2 gallons a week? Is that too much?
Well, how much cow's milk are you going to drink?
About 2 gallons a week.
Okay.
No, this would probably replace my cow. I probably drink 1 gallon of cow's milk.
And 1 gallon goes. That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And that would actually help the cellular regeneration.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What if I got Amos to ship me unrefrigerated cow's milk from Pennsylvania?
Okay, well, it takes 2 days to ship, right?
And it might hit under 72 degrees.
Oh, well, definitely, in this time of year, it will definitely go under.
But what about in summer when it would go way over 72 degrees?
Well, it won't, because when they ship something like that, it goes into a truck that's refrigerated, but, cooled, air conditioned. So they cannot take a chance on electronics getting damaged with heat. So they have to keep the trucks air conditioned at the most 75, 76 degrees. They cannot let packages exceed that, because they could be held responsible for electrical damage.
So you're saying I could actually get it shipped from Amos?
That's right. The only problem would be in the plains. If that shipment gets out near the side of the...
But he sends FedEx ground,
then it would never be harmed. Yeah.
It would be okay, FedEx
It would be okay, yeah. And then you could get it that way.
And it would really help that much?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. But cow's milk would be better than the goat's milk to have.
Correct, absolutely. Unless you had diabetes or were skinny. Fat.
Okay.
And you're neither.
Okay.
Okay?
You said that about 72 degrees about the milk. When you drink warm milk and you put it in hot water to warm it, does that get above 72 degrees? Because, to warm the milk before, drink warm milk before you go to bed, it's not room temperature, because to me that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
I put it in warm water.
Yeah.
So that doesn't ruin the
It
effect.
doesn't harm it at all. Not unless you cook it over 105 degrees.
No, the warm water from the tap.
Yeah.
Just put it in there.
But some people put 120 degree water in there and put it in there. For a little while, the refrigerated milk or cool milk or warm room temperature milk is going to get too hot. Then you have to kind of test it and see how long it takes for the milk to get warm, and it doesn't exceed 105 degrees with the temperature of your tap water.
Because just in terms of molecular structure, obviously it's warmer. It's going to be more spread out, which means it's going to be more easily digested, I would assume. Because
you're not about 105 degrees. It doesn't do that. It would take 120 to 123 degrees for it to start expanding. Absolutely not, because you cauterized your potassium and your phosphorus at 98 degrees.
So it's still, David, I would still okay to, it's still okay to put it in warm water.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Okay, I got to go on to the next question. Is this about the milk?
No.
Okay.
I have a question about the milk. So, if you have milk in your refrigerator and it's really thick, like yogurt, is that like yogurt, or is that something else?
It's like yogurt. It's the bacteria in the milk is pre-digesting it for you. So it's much more digestible and utilizable in your system. Okay.
Addiction. What causes addiction in?
What's your language?
And what would you do diet-wise? Would you do anything special for an addict other than the raw diet, or you know? What I mean?
You mean like Tourette's syndrome? You have that problem, you asshole? Addiction. I had a Tennessee accent. Plus, when they gave me braces, my teeth were all crooked and everything and bucked. And they gave me braces at 15 years old and took out 4 major teeth. They shrunk my mouth up. My tongue was too big. See, I've got a nice, big, fat tongue. And it restricted my tongue movement, so I lisped after I got my braces off. Even while I had my braces on, I lisped. But they said once the brace came off, I wouldn't lisp anymore. So I lisped. So this is just part of that story. And so you got a membrane here, and you see I don't have one, because after 5 years of lisping, I took a scissors and I clipped that tongue. And it bled for a little while. But my tongue was able to move properly again. I lost the lisp. Wow. So. I do what works. But anyway, I still had a southern accent because I spent from 3 to 7 years old in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And my mother's family, all 13 of those children with 200 offspring, all were from Alabama. So big, heavy act. So I was very sick in Los Angeles, couldn't work as a computer analyst anymore, a program analyst anymore. So I started working as an actor by a fluke. And they said that I would have to lose my accent. Back then they were more prejudiced, 1969 when I started. So I got a diction teacher, I don't know if some of you may know her, Lorene Tuttle. She was a nurse on Julia, and she was an old radio star. So she was like my second grandmother, a very dear person. She gave me one exercise and got rid of it in 10 days, my accent, my diction. She says, all you have to do is say 5 minutes at a time, 4 times a day, 4 to 5 times a day, P, 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 T, 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 K, 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 in that order. You say each one 3 or 4 times, and you keep saying that for a full 5 minutes, and your accent will be gone. And sure enough, you speak like that.
Really? Any accent?
Any accent. Any accent.
Which order?
P, T, and K. And you have to read each one many times over a 5-minute period with 3 P, 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 T, 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 K, K, K. If you want to say P, 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 T, 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 K, 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 you can do that too. 3 to 4 repetitions at a time. As many within that 5 minutes. So that takes care of your diction.
Pardon my diction, but the question was, what causes addiction?
Oh, addiction!
It was my poor diction.
You got 2 questions in it. Okay.
Exactly.
Addiction. Okay.
I'm looking for 2.
Addiction.
Yes.
Not addiction. Addiction. Okay. It depends upon what it is. Some people have a reaction to alcohol, which causes them to need more alcohol to break down particular fats. People who eat a lot of vegetable oils and olive oil have a tendency to need more alcohol. And if they can't get it in their diet, they'll do it in their beverage.
What if you're on cocaine, heroin, something like that?
That's a what happens is when you take drugs, no matter what kind they are, your body will control them with adrenaline, testosterone, estrogen, thyroxine, any of the endocrine glands, because all endocrine glands hormones are 80% fat, 15% protein, and 5% carbohydrate, just about like the coconut. Some of them are all the way down to 60% fat, 20 to 30% protein, and a higher level of carbohydrate. But none of them are under 60% fat. So what happens is the body produces hormones to bind with those toxins. People get high. Plus the chemical can cause a high at the same time. What happens is they bind with that and will store them in the glands. Keep collecting some of that chemical and store it in the glands or other tissue. When you stop taking it, your body goes all of a sudden into a heavy detoxification. All that chemical that's been loosely stored. So it causes an opposite reaction, a drastic reaction. And those are the DTs or withdrawal, whatever you want to call them, no matter on what drug it is. That's what the pharmaceutical house counts on. You're having a problem with, and you say, oh, God, I got to take this medicine. I'm going crazy. Because the body is going crazy temporarily because of the severe chemical imbalances. You just have to get through that.
So if you eat cheeses or anything like that, it won't make any difference?
No, it definitely will. You just consume cheese every 20 minutes. If you're going through a withdrawal, consume cheese just a little sugar cube sized amount every 20 minutes. Make sure you're sipping on raw cream all day long, and eat some honey. When you're going through that, it'll cause chemicals. Honey will usually stimulate the body to detoxify drug chemicals rapidly. So you have to have very small amounts of honey. What you can do is mix honey and butter together to help soothe your tissues rather than having honey alone. So it would be cheese, honey and butter, and lots of raw cream sipped throughout the day. And of course some protein, meat. Fish would always be best. Don't eat red meat if you're going through any kind of withdrawal, because it could put you into violent behavior because of the high acidity. Remember, all those chemicals are highly acidic already. Okay?
Good, thank you.
All right. Elena, no question? Okay. Kathy.
Yeah, speaking about that, because I had my brother, he committed suicide because he took PCP and cocaine, the combination. And so when my mother found him, it was very hysterical moments, very emotional. He hanged himself in his room.
Well, that's a difficult way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was in 95. That was like about 15 years ago. But because you were talking about drugs and how the combination could it really blow your brain?
Well, what it does is it causes such a chemical imbalance, your body feels panicked. And when your body feels panicked, it can go many different ways. I'll give you an example of a good suicide. I don't consider suicide bad. I tried to commit suicide hundreds of times.
Did the drug actually make them commit suicide?
Yes, it can, definitely. The withdrawal of it.
No, he took the drug, and that's what they found on PCP and cocaine.
Yeah, but that means he may have stopped taking it for maybe 12 hours, and he started detoxing it heavily. How was it high in his blood? Or did they just find it on his possession?
I guess the needle was there or something.
Okay, but he would have had to have had an
Well, it was written on the toxicology.
Toxicology, yeah. It could happen. Combining PCP with cocaine is a very, it can cause all kinds of hallucinations, distortions of thought. But I had
like LSD, is it worse than LSD?
LSD is not harmful.
No, it's not.
No. Only when you take it in combination with other things. They put me in, to help try to get rid of my autism. In 1967, my uncle, who was going for his doctorate at UCLA in psychology, they were experimenting with LSD in the laboratory there. I was one of the guinea pigs. I was totally immune to it. They give me 720 micrograms in 14 hours, and it didn't even do anything to me. And I was not part of the control group. They got the placebo. I actually got the real stuff. I was just immune to it. But I've never known anybody to have a problem with LSD on their own, on its own. It's when you take it in combination with other
But the
things.
PCP is a trigger, isn't it?
PCP is all chemical.
And the cocaine
It's like crystal meth. You know how you make crystal meth? You take 3 kinds of detergents and about 5 other chemicals, and it's all chemicals, and you mix them together. One of my patients had been on crystal meth for about 6 years. Her vagina was like leather. There was no mucus production, anything. All the way up into her cervix. Dry as leather. That's how nasty that stuff is. She was 23 years old. She started on when she was about 13, 14 or 15. And she looked 40. Do you think I could help her?
Yes.
No, but food could. Food was, yes. But it's a very slow process. It's going to be years for her to turn around to even be slightly normal. Probably 15 years. Because you have to understand the body has to clean out all those chemicals. And they're all chemical, harsh chemicals.
What do you wash your clothes with?
I wash my clothes with BioClean degreaser, cleanser and degreaser. It's very mild. It's made with grapefruit seed extract and orange peel. So even though they use a little bit of kerosene or wood alcohol to break it down, to use it, it's only 3% toxic. All of your other seven generations, whatever it is, all of those are only like 30 to 40% biodegradable. The rest of it isn't.
Where do you get it?
Health food stores.
What's the name? BioClean.
BioClean is the brand name. BIOKLEEN.
All the health food stores sell it.
They do? Okay. But don't get the laundry detergent. The only one that works, and what you do is use it as your laundry detergent. You get the BioClean cleaner and degreaser and use that. It just takes a little capful per one washer load. Well, they call it something else now, cleanser and something.
But you don't get the laundry.
No, don't get the laundry stuff.
Just get like a dish soap? Is that what it's like a dish? Okay.
No, it's not like a dish soap.
No.
Okay. It's just called cleanser and something.
Oh.
Cleaner and something else. It used to be cleanser and degreaser.
What about those bowls you put in the washing machine?
They're very helpful to have break down molecule,
So
the
they're okay,
hard water.
I mean, I get them from the education. You're okay.
Absolutely. I've used them. They've never worked entirely because I use so much coconut cream in my body, to get to my clothes, and those things don't take it out of my clothes.
So if I add that, can I add it?
Add that to it, yeah, and even a smaller amount.
Okay.
Yeah. Where were we? Okay, Roger, go ahead.
I perspire very little. Is that good, bad, or indifferent?
That's bad. 90% of your toxins lead through the skin. That's why I say take hot baths. If you don't perspire, take a 35, 40-minute bath a day. Hot bath, 105 degrees, perspire it.
But doesn't that dry your skin out?
Does you're eating the fats.
And what's in the bath?
It adversely affects my sleep for some strange reason.
Are you having your bath too late?
If I have the bath,
Yeah, that's why I say in the book, best to have it midday or at least morning. If you have it in the evening and you start detoxing, it'll disturb your sleep. Could disturb your sleep. It happens maybe 20 out of 100 it disturbs your sleep. 2 out of 10. Okay, you have a question?
My one question is about, detoxing from smoking, for example. What's the best thing for your lungs?
9 out of 10 people who go on this diet automatically stop smoking. Just like that. No problem with it.
Oh, I've quit smoking, but I just
clean it out. You get green tobacco. You juice it. You ferment it with a little bit of vinegar and lemon juice for about 10 days out of the refrigerator. And then you take 2-3 drops in one of your vegetable juices a day. It's very potent and will start breaking down the tars in your body. And you don't want any more than that. You might only do it 5 days a week too. Because I've seen some people go into pretty nasty detoxifications with it. But it takes a similar tar with the alcohol to attach and help break down that tar. Because any tar has bacteria. Any food has a bacteria. Some mold better than others, rather than bacteria degenerate. But all of them have bacterial breakdown. So when you have the raw and you put that into your body, you're giving your body those bacteria to propagate, to start breaking down, and fungus to start breaking down those old tars in the body. And remember, those smoke tars are just as thick when they go into your lungs as they are the tar on your roof in the street. So when your body makes cells with them, it hardens, it crystallizes. So it causes hardening of their arteries. It can cause sclera wherever it is in your body.
Is the solution that we're breathing, is that causing tar too, or does that come from cigarettes?
The which?
The pollution that we're breathing, is that...
That's a lot of other chemicals, but it does have fats and oils. Especially if you're going to use biodiesel. Hello? Biodiesel is worse than regular gasoline diesel. Because you're getting tars that are going to crystallize in your system.
Yeah, that's what they're using in Europe.
I know. So people are going to have sclerosis all over their bodies.
Does that apply to the tar that you get from weed as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Not as bad, though. Corn is worse because it's higher in fat. Weed is lower in fat.
Not weed.
Pardon? Marijuana. It's worse. Tars are 16 times greater in marijuana than cigarettes. So one joint is worth a pack of cigarettes.
You can still use the same method to...
You have to juice the marijuana, but you're going to get high.
No, I'm just talking about cleaning the actual...
I know, but it will still make you high while you're getting clean. But you won't have the down. When you take marijuana juice raw like that in green, you get a nice high and it lasts over about 3 to 5 days, and there's no down. There's no down. So just be aware that you're going to be a little high when you do that cleansing. Okay, let's go carry on. Did you ask a question already?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I mean, unless you call the add-on.
Yeah.
Can I just make...
Oh, I'm actually going to ask about first aid.
Uh-huh.
I have a cut like this, and I've been putting the cream on, but it just doesn't go away. So
You got to put lime juice on it first.
Okay, so
Lime juice,
just
coconut cream, and then you can put the lime juice, coconut cream, and honey.
There's
or
lime
lime
in that
juice.
formula, but you still have to put the juice on first. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Always
then-
put the lime juice on an open wound.
Okay.
I don't care if it's just one layer of abrasion.
So carry lime, because I get, paper cuts, all that stuff, but
Then
lime.
you should carry lime with you.
Carry lime, okay. Well, I work with kids anyway, so I'm getting cuts all the time. So, and I fix things with the equipment. Okay, so the other, and then just keep doing that, it should go away pretty quick. The lime you should.
Yeah, if you get your hands in water, you should do it after you get them out of water.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No.
So every time Okay, then the other piece of that is bruises. So there's cuts and bruises. So, and any other advice you could give about first aid in general? Because I was looking for stuff in the book and I couldn't sort of find it.
Well, if you want to help remove bruises, what I suggest you do is start the process by taking a wet clay. First put the lime juice on the area so the lime can go in and surround the cells, the dead blood cells. Whenever you have a bruise, that's because your red blood cells are out of the bloodstream and into your tissue, into your connective tissue. So those red blood cells are starting to decay, they turn black. And then as your body breaks them down, it turns yellow. And then it passes out the skin. So you put the lime juice on it first to help contain any toxins in those red blood cells or to the degeneration of the red blood cells. And then you put clay, wet clay over it for about 20, 30 minutes. You have to keep that clay wet, moist, so it doesn't dry.
By adding a little bit of water.
Yeah, you keep spraying on it, whatever, or put a piece of plastic over it, gauze, wet gauze, with coconut cream over it, and then plastic over that. So you maintain the moisture. And then, after you remove that, put a thin slice of meat, like carpaccio thin, over that, and then gauze with moistened or dampened with coconut cream, and then over that, put the plastic and then a bandage around that.
So the coconut cream in this case is on the gauze, not on your body.
You can put it on your body too after the lime.
Okay.
But the bruise is a different kind of thing. It depends on how your body reacts.
Okay, because the other thing that you had me do with the knee for the penicillin, the coconut cream underneath meat.
Correct.
Okay, so it's okay. And any other advice about just general first aid, carrying first aid kits, earthquakes, whatever? You know what I mean? Should we be carrying stuff around with us? Should we be doing what kind of, like a first aid question?
Well, I've always got honey and butter or honey with me, so I always carry that. When I'm in Asia, I always carry a lime.
Okay.
Because I get off in the bush,
Okay.
I get a lot of cuts and scrapes.
And the bites, same thing, the lime?
I don't get bitten. But the limes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know how people...
that baby that I told you about that was anemic?
Yeah.
He had bruises this big from one mosquito bite, and he had them all up his legs.
Oh.
So once he got the raw milk, no more bites.
Why? You think the mosquitoes would go after more healthier body?
No, they go after high sugar bodies.
But you know what
So I don't eat sugar. That's why I don't eat a lot of fruit when I'm in a tropical environment. See, as Asians eat all this rice and all that carbohydrate and then eat all the food on top of it. So they get bitten like crazy. I slept on the beach in Mati, and all of the people who went with me stayed in the RV. I slept, naked on the beach. And mosquitoes were all around buzzing me all night, but didn't bite me.
When I put the face cream on and I went to a spa outdoors, they had gnats, and the gnats were all over me. They wouldn't leave me alone. They liked the cream.
Yeah, they like that
so
cream.
So I stopped using that.
Yeah.
But, because we're using natural products. If they want them, they're going to go for it.
We'll put a little lime juice in it, or some ginger, something like that, and then they won't like it.
Okay.
The odor will be too strong for them.
Okay.
Do you have a question? I'm going to go back this way, and I'll come around over here. Okay. So do you have a question?
I just wanted to get some more information on a systematic way of treating the body using high meat.
Using what?
High meat.
If you're talking, do not talk on the phone in here. Can't do it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. My interest is in, looking at my genetic patterns towards various diseases within my family and using high meats as a preventative measure.
Okay, just know this. There's no such thing as a genetic disease. Pharmaceutical house pulls people in to take medication. The thing is, people in the family follow the same diets. They eat the same foods. So they're going to have the same problems. They eat the same combinations, the same everything. So they develop the similar problems. That's not genetic. I had diabetes. Diabetes runs in my family. I've got 8 cousins out of about 140 who were, I've got over 200 now. But at that time when I was diabetic, out of the 148 were diabetic by the time they were 13 to 15 years old. I was diabetic after my 3rd polio shot, within days after my 3rd polio shot, that gave me diabetes. It wasn't that it's in the family, it's the junk that's in the diet and other things that damage the pancreas. Oh, it runs in your family. You've got 3 aunts and uncles who are diabetic, and now you have 8 cousins. Runs in your family. Hello? If it were genetic, and my RNA and DNA were permanently damaged because it's genetic, I would still be taking insulin. But I went cold turkey off of it at 22 years old when I started drinking raw milk and raw carrot juice. So, no, nothing's genetic.
Even so, based on the similar eating patterns of my parents, grandparents, great.
Don't look at it that way. You have to look at the individual. What are their problems?
But I'm just trying to develop a systematic way of treating myself with high meat so that I, as a preventative measure, due to the fact that I've copied their eating styles as a child, and if you've developed any system within the high meat for that particular purpose.
Well, like I said, high meat's mainly for people who have constipation or some other E. coli problem that creates psychotropic problems. That's the main factor for that. If you've got intestinal problems, you take, the intestines of the pig, and you eat the ingredients and the intestinal walls of a pig.
Is there another animal instead of pig?
Well, the pig is almost identical to the human.
I understand, but I don't eat pig, so I don't eat pork, so is there another?
Sorry about that. Your problem. The pig is predominantly carnivorous. He'll bore down and get the moles out of the ground. The ants. That's why they bore so deeply. They go for those moles, groundhogs and stuff like that. So that's their main diet, and that's why our system is very much like ours. And if you go for an herbivore's digestive tract, it's not going to give you all that bacteria. It digests alkaline foods. We digest acidic foods. So it's not going to get the same thing. If you want to capture a lion or a tiger or something like that, dogs, but you'd have to have a healthy dog. You're not going to find any in our city, or a cat.
Right.
Yes, Jim.
Whey is good for me. It's a blood thinner, and to eliminate the gout. If I take whey for the rest of my life, is it like a separate meal, or can I have it with something, or do I have to wait an hour before and after? Or?
It's preferable by itself because it will cause fermentation of whatever you're eating it with. You can add it to a sport formula instead of vinegar, or even along with vinegar. Vinegar also thins the blood.
I don't know what you mean.
We're talking about thinning your blood, weren't you? Did you say that?
Sport form. You don't understand what sport form is.
Sport.
Pardon?
What's the sports formula?
Oh, the sport formula. I've given it off in many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like 2 cups in the We Want to Live book. I have the hydration formula. When you're doing a heavy sport, you're perspiring a lot. You need more cucumber than tomato. So I altered that recipe to have 2 to 2.5 cups of cucumber puree and 1 cup of tomato puree. So what you've done is just swap it around.
So
instead of have a lot of tomato, you have more cucumber puree. And then, like a tablespoon of vinegar, tablespoon of lemon juice, 2 to 4 tablespoons of coconut cream, 2 to 4 tablespoons of dairy cream, about 2.5 to 4 ounces of sparkling mineral water. You blend all of that all together and you sip it throughout the day.
I see. So it doesn't matter what else. Like if you have 15 minutes after juice, you can sip that, or you have to wait, an hour between anything else you eat.
Well, any time after juice, probably about 15, 20 minutes. After meat, it would have to be probably an hour.
And if I were just to have straight whey by itself, then like an hour, nothing, and then whey.
Before meat, an hour. If it's juice you're going to have after the whey, then it could be 20 minutes. Okay. And what you can do is you could use whey instead of the water in the sport drink. 2.5 to, well, you're a big guy, 4 ounces of whey instead of 4 ounces of water. Okay? That'll thin the blood. Okay, I'm going to go right down the line here.
Finish at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Oh, I want to know about, in your eyes, sometimes you have those light flashes that go at night.
I don't.
Light flashes.
I do.
Okay, you said D. Some people have flashes. Okay.
Okay. What is good for, they do go away eventually when you eat this way, or they do go away. But then another one could come, so then I had the problem that one was almost gone and another one came on this side. So what causes that?
Metallic minerals detoxing from the brain out the tear ducts, and they get sidetracked and get into the eye instead of out the tear ducts.
Okay.
So metallic minerals, they'll reflect light.
Right.
They crystallize, come into a crystal.
Okay.
And then if the light passes into the eye just in the right way or the right fashion, and it catches the facet, then it will reflect into
it's not
the...
constant.
Right.
Okay, so
The light has to hit it perfectly to do that.
That's right. So what's the remedy?
Vinegar helps break that down the best, break those down.
You mean like in your green juice? Vinegar in
Yeah, you can have vinegar in, you can put vinegar in your green juice to do it. There's no other way. I mean, there are other ways, but they'll cause harm. Salt can do it, but then salt causes dehydration and damage. It fractionates nutrients that the cells eat, as well as, any kind of crystal buildup. So vinegar is not the only thing that will do it. I mean, beet juice, but all these other things, beet juice, red beet, not the white beets, but the red beets, can help fractionate those clusters.
And how much?
How bad are yours? I would say a teaspoon a day. So remember, if you have a lot of vinegar, you're going to decalcify, demineralize your system. So you have to eat enough cheese to keep up with that. Enough cheese. If you're having a teaspoon of vinegar, I would say you need to eat at least 3 tablespoons of cheese in a day.
What about drinking lots of milk? Is that just as good?
Not quite, because you have concentrated minerals in cheese.
Sorry, this is somebody calling in for the public.
Okay.
But if you're having that cheese,
You're a little late. Okay, do you have a question?
Yes, my name is Jeremy, and I actually was diagnosed with ALS/Lou Gehrig's disease about a year ago. And I was wondering if you've ever worked with anybody that's had that and had experience helping him or her.
Only 2 people? What it did, ALS is a degenerative disease of the nerves and connective tissue. It extended it slowed down the ALS tremendously. So I haven't been able to stop it yet, fully.
How many years did it
One probably 7 years. One is still going. He's probably doing it 5 years, 4.5 years. So, and they should have been dead a long time ago. One fellow came to me from Singapore when I was doing lectures and patients there, and he was so far gone, he was in a wheelchair, but he lasted another 2 years, and they expected him to go within a month. So it did give him another 2 years with his family, and he was very grateful for that. Not an easy one, but I have some new ideas about it, so we can talk another time about that. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes, it's a dental question. Is there a way to regenerate or repair dental enamel?
Yes. Yeah. Bone marrow, eating bone marrow, applying it to the teeth, and that formula. Now, because of the radiation that I had that deteriorated the bones, I had to go many, many, many years, of course, experimenting with the diet. I didn't come up with this diet overnight. I started eating the raw meat in September of '76, still ate heavy fruit, was only eating meat 2 or 3 times a week, 3 meals a week of meat, 2 to 3 meals a week. And then in December of '82, I started eating meat on a daily basis. Then in the early '90s, in the late '80s, I started reducing fruit. And by the late '90s, I started eliminating almost all fruit that was, very sweet or ripe. And so all of those changes brought about different experiences. So me being on the perfect diet has only been maybe 9-10 years, where I haven't had to alter anything, just experiment. So about 10 years ago, all of the facial fillings that I had started growing outward. And there were big lips, edges around the side. So what it had done, my body was pushing the fillings out and filling the enamel and the tubules behind it. So the next time when that popped out, I got a smaller filling until the tooth was filled in.
So this is for cavities that you had?
Cavities that I had that had been filled in for 20 years, 23 years.
You're pushing them out, regenerating the
starting to regenerate underneath. Yeah. Still have it going on too.
So is this just a result of your diet?
Yes.
Basically, just follow your protocol.
Yes. I don't have a cookbook. A recipe. Just wanted to clarify that. I'm not making fun of you. Many people make that mistake.
Those are called your protocol in your diet.
Yes, right.
There's nothing special than the bone marrow.
Just do it long enough and clean enough. So, because you have to understand that most of the decay, dental decay that occurs happens from the toxic metals leaving the brain, going out the gums. The body uses calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium to chelate with those toxic metals to try to alkalinize them to an extent and prevent dental damage, dentine damage. That's plaque. But because people eat cooked foods, those cauterized, alkalinized minerals are only 10% effective in alkalinizing those toxic metals. So even though you've got a thick layer of plaque, the acidity eventually eats through and damages the dentine. Then your body creates bacteria to get rid of the damaged dentine and tubule cells. The bacteria does not create the decay, the cavity. The damaging metals cause it. So you need to keep your teeth cleaned at least every 5 days of plaque, so the plaque doesn't eat through the dentine. So once your brain is detoxed enough where it's not dumping so many heavy metals down there, then your body will be able to use its minerals to regenerate the dentine and tubules better. I didn't, like I said, even though I was drinking raw milk since 1969, 69, all the way up until now, all that raw milk and eating raw meat, it wasn't until 9 years ago, till my teeth started behaving that way. My body started behaving that way.
So would you suggest against any kind of fillings? And I've never had amalgams, but I've had like a exposed gum line. The enamel's worn down. So
I would use that toothpaste that I recommended and put bone marrow there.
So don't go and get a filling you suggest against
not unless you can't stand the cold and any kind of honey on it or something like that.
It's exposed as long as it's clean.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you.
And I'm saying with that bone marrow though, so it can seal itself. Because your bone marrow has all those stem cells in it, so it can utilize all the calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium right there to start regenerating the tubule. Tubule gets fixed, and then the dentine will get fixed.
What about the raw eggs? I mean, the eggs that we've been eating, the non-refrigerated.
I've never found eggs to help regenerate teeth.
Are those stem cells in the food?
No.
There's no stem cells in there?
They're not mature. There's stem cells in there, but they don't work.
For teeth?
They don't work for anything in all my laboratory experiments with people and with animals. Eggs never increase the rapidity of cellular division. Only raw meats and fresh, Unrefrigerated milk did that. Eggs never did it. That's why I say in the book, it's not a mature protein. That's what I'm saying it is. I really don't know the reason, but I'm saying that's what it is. Okay?
I was just going to follow up on that. So if my teeth are still where they are from before, that means that the brain is still just detoxing too much, and that's the reason. It's not anything else I'm doing wrong or anything like that. It's just that.
Correct. Your body's using up all those minerals.
Okay, so just
combined with the poisons.
So just to be patient.
Okay. Do you have a question back there? No. Okay. Ibrahim?
Yeah, I was doing the same thing that you were doing. Like I was doing all fruits all day, and 4 months ago I had a heart attack, and I thought it was amazing because I was able to. I just crawled and I knew where the vinegar was. I had a few shots and I had one big fat ice cream. And in 2 hours, my body was straight. I was no longer lefty, and I was lefty instead. It was like a shoebox. So is that a detox?
Well, what you did is you thinned the blood from a clot. Usually a heart attack is when you get too much acidity or some compound in the blood that causes a Charlie horse in the heart. You know, Charlie horse in the leg, you get a Charlie horse in the leg. The more you fight it, the worse it gets. Heart attack is the same way. You have to completely relax. You have to breathe slowly. Inhale and exhale slowly and not too deeply. If you inhale too deeply, you're going to cause the cramp to get worse. And it's a matter of just staying focused. Do not breathe fast and panic, and that's where you have your tension remain, and then you're likely to black out. And if you black out, if you don't black out soon enough, your body isn't going to relax. It's going to stay in that tightness. And as that uric acid builds up in that area, it will maintain the Charlie horse. So you need to relax right away. You sit down, lie down, and you start very slowly breathing. You breathe as deeply until you feel it tighten, and then you just exhale again slowly. And you come out of it. I've had 300 heart attacks from 15 and a half to 22 because of I got diabetes and angina pectoris after my third polio vaccine.
You knew what to do then, at that moment, at 15?
I was autistic. I always let my body do what it was going to do. So I just went limp when I had pain because I knew that if you resist and fight pain, it gets worse. So I just totally went limp and just moved away from the pain and breathed slowly. So I never died. I had 50 blackouts out of 300, but never died with any of them.
So the opposite.
And the doctors all told my parents it was in my head.
Oh my God.
I'm an idiot, autistic idiot. It's in my head, creating heart attacks.
I did. You spoke it without knowing it, and I just laid
down.
I was working at it. I'm not going to get up.
It's terrific.
For 2 hours I lay down, so.
But then you went to the hospital?
No, that was a different reason.
It was psychotropic. Do you have a question?
One is, instead of lime juice for open wound, can you use lemon juice?
No, lemon is a bacterial encourager, promoter. It encourages bacterial breakdown. That's why it's a great food to use to break down, to marinate, meats in. Lime juice is completely antibacterial and antiseptic. Antiseptic.
Okay.
Pardon?
Peel as well.
Peel, it's too much oil. It's a very stringent oil. Talk about burning without stopping. Squeeze that on.
Another thing, you're expert in biochemical processes in our bodies. Did you take into consideration other metaphysical stuff like chakra system and higher power and other things that contribute to the healing as well?
If a person does yoga, it usually resolves all of that. If you're eating a good diet and doing yoga, usually your body stays stretched. Usually it's a flow to those centers. I have a lot of people who are in different modes of meditation, and they can't reach those, and they've tried for years and decades to reach those states. And when they give the right foods to the body, The body is the temple of everything, the soul. So once you take care of that, then all the other states become very easy, very facile. I have a lot of Scientologists who go through what is called auditing. And they have to go through a metabolism test first. If they don't show good metabolism, they're not going to retain and utilize the exercises to advance them spiritually and psychologically. And I had one fellow who tried to get audited for 7 years, and he was unable to pass the metabolism test. 3 months on the diet, he passed the test. So, any kind of spirit, this adds to the body's normal communication. So everybody who's spiritual, who is religious, who is of another consciousness, trying to reach another state of consciousness, find it very easy on this diet. Okay? Do you have a question way back? No? Young lady, do you have a question? No? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious. Earlier this week had an MRI done on my neck, and it showed that I had a herniated bulge, 4 millimeters between 4 and 5, and then an 8 millimeter anyways, I had another one that I forgot what it's called, where the stuff's coming out of it, and it's 8 millimeters between 6 and 7. And I saw 2 neurosurgeons. They want to, put a steel plate in there and a fusion and all that. And I am intent on healing it naturally. So I'm wondering what part of your diet would be the most important thing for me to get there's a lot of pressure on the spinal column apparently that it's impinging on
But it's in your neck.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the least pressure of anywhere in your body. But it's also the hardest to get circulation to it.
Okay.
Anything that repairs bone will repair cartilage. So the pineapple, a little bit of pineapple about every other day with some coconut cream, a little dairy cream, and lots of cheese. A little cheese with honey, or a little honey with cheese, like 1.5 tablespoons of cheese with about 3/4 of a teaspoon of honey after a meat meal, about 30 minutes after a meat meal, will help give you a lot of minerals. Eating bone marrow, little teaspoon throughout the day, will help it rapidly. Rubbing bone marrow into your neck before you go to sleep. Putting hot water bottles at either side of your neck and a silk scarf over that to tint the heat in. That will increase the circulation so more nutrients get into your neck, and you can resolve it. Usually you can resolve it within about 18 months to where there's no more danger, there's no more deterioration, and you start adding to it. It'll take about 6-7 years to completely clean it, but you shouldn't have any trouble as long as you keep your neck relaxed and stretched. So when you wake up in the morning, stretch your neck, get your chin to your chest. You could go over into the plow, stay in the plow for about 5 minutes, the best thing you can do. Keep everything stretched so you don't have any compression. So you have plenty of circulation into those vertebrae.
So you think it is possible to actually reduce the herniations and have the fluid that's come out come back in?
Herniations only because you've got too tight a neck. You're bruising your cartilage. You're causing herniations. You're causing sores.
Does that give headaches to you?
No, I have no headaches. I can totally, the doctors are like, I can't believe you're walking and you can use your left arm to the left, and I'm using my left arm fine.
They can't believe they can't get a pool payment from you. If you have no pain, you're not in that bad a shape.
Oh, I am in pain, unfortunately.
Just no headaches.
Yeah, no headaches. Neck aches, huh? Yeah, my neck and ankle.
A lot of people suffered neck pain.
I just, I don't like to, the only thing, I'm a physical therapist, the only thing I would say is that a lot of times the herniation is because the vertebrae are in the wrong direction in terms
That's
of
right,
the
because
relationship.
you've got muscles that are too tight.
But part of it is the exact opposite in the neck and in the lumbar, that when you do extension exercises, you pump extension. You pump the fluid and the disc back toward the anterior, back toward the front, and that's what you want. You have to be careful with this because if you're pumping it back toward the back, you can push it out. You can look online under McKenzie, McKenzie. There's McKenzie neck exercises, McKenzie back exercises, and they will tell you the kinds of exercises to do because you could, and it'll take a lot less time than what you're talking about if you pump the disc back into where it's supposed to be. And part of it is all the flexion that we do all day. So, but with the neck exercises, you really want to do what it says in the book. I don't want to do anything like this right now. But I think it's really important to check out the position of the disc, and you'll find that with most people, it's just herniation just means you're pumping it forward instead of pumping it back.
Because if you're using those hot water bottles at night, you're not going to have that problem.
The hot water bottles will help like crazy.
Because you keep everything relaxed and everything shoves back in the way it's supposed to. If you're tight, you go into a plow position or any other neck position, or even go to a chiropractor and have adjustments like that, you can really damage the tissue. But if you're relaxed and everything's heated and relaxed, you're not going to have things go out of place.
You got to be careful with the exercises unless you really know what you're doing.
I don't think you have to be careful as long as you're doing the hot water bottles. I've had thousands of people do that, and not one has ever been injured. As long as they do the hot water bottles. If they try to do it without the hot water bottles, some of them have been bruised. But that's because they don't listen. They think, oh, I had it on last night. I don't need it tonight. Every day's a new day. You have new acids going into your spine and your columns. So you have to make sure every day you take care of it if you're in a dangerous situation. You can't be slack on it. Okay? Do you have a question back there?
Yes. Is there a way to network clean and healthy farms? Is there some sort of pooling together, like a website or something for people, for those who travel and are trying to maintain this diet for lengthy periods?
Well, I have a product list that shows the different locations where you can get things. There is also realmilk.org, Sally Palin's website, which has a lot of, organic dairy farmers. And you just look under your state and you look under the closest place to get it, and then call them. A lot of them are going to say, I can't give you raw milk. I can't sell you raw milk. So you have to say, well, I'm part of Aajonus. I will sign the, thing that says that, you're part of an organization like Right to Choose Healthy Foods and Rawson Clubs or whatever local club that is, and you have to pay $25 for each club, but then you can get it because you're a member of the club, so it's already your milk. So if you have to get in through different ways, it depends upon the farmer.
So this is also the case with the meat, I'm assuming.
Pardon?
This is also the case with the meat, I'm assuming.
No, the meat you can get raw anywhere. You can sell raw meat anywhere. Only milk has to be pasteurized.
I'm looking for this. I'm kind of like James at Lawson. I prefer to have it with soil that isn't, full of uranium.
Right. Well, then you go online. There are a lot of wild game places, but most of them freeze it. There's new wellness meats, and they'll ship it to you anywhere. And they've now made it so in the last 5 months, made it so they'll send it to my patients unfrozen.
Wow.
And all of theirs is grass-fed. Wellness meats.
British gentleman over there, you talked about marijuana detoxification.
Yeah.
I've got green juice tobacco.
You juice the raw tobacco. Okay. And then you ferment it with, let's say you have 8 ounces of juice, marijuana juice. You put like 2 drops of vinegar and about 4 drops of lemon juice. And you let it sit outside the refrigerator, not near the refrigerator where there's an EMF field. You need to put it where there's no EMF field. And let it ferment for about 10 days. When it starts gassing, put it in the refrigerator.
Sorry, 2
2 juices of 2 of lemon juice and water together?
2 drops of vinegar, raw unpasteurized apple cider vinegar, and 3 to 4 drops of lemon juice. So all it'll take to ferment about 6 to 8 ounces of tobacco.
You're saying use. Oh right, yeah, we're doing that. But you can do the same thing with marijuana.
That I'm calling marijuana tobacco too.
Oh.
The same. These are 2 juices. It's either marijuana juice or tobacco juice. Same. Okay, do you have a question? Yes. Yes, you skip.
Right. Regarding the chemotherapy-induced neuropathy in my toes, still from before, and I was taking fentanyl citrate as a pain medicine for that, and I started getting off of it 6 weeks ago. I was taking 1,600 micrograms 8 times a day, so quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking 400 micrograms 7 times a day. And I did that in about 6 weeks. In the past 2 weeks, I can't seem to get lower than that, trying to detox from it, and it's been hell. I'm someone that's mentally really strong, and you know, the 3 times that I was wasting and almost was on my deathbed 3 times. Always mentally, never been depressed more than a day. Very optimistic, and this stuff has been making me literally the past 6 weeks. I've been wanting to walk off a cliff.
That's why I'm shivering for you. Cannot take that stuff. Vinegar has the same amino acids that start for use for chelation, only non-chemical. They're not isolated. Vinegar is your chelator for anything.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with what?
With the chelator.
Those chelators are metallic minerals. They are chemical composites, and they will cause more damage unless you're taking an enormous amount of fats with them. You are going to store 80% of those things you're breaking out, and you're only going to extract them from the soft tissue and those that are fluid.
So you're not recommending vinegar, though?
Yes, I'm recommending vinegar. I'm talking about the chelation, EDTA, and those
I
things.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you take the vinegar?
I need to find out.
Well, that I'll have to talk to you personally because I have some other questions to ask you for that.
Okay.
And that will take probably 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, should I ask you that time about the neuropathy that I have? What I realized what the pain is it's not like a normal pain. The pain feels like, to be quite frank, is when you're going to have an orgasm, those 6 or 7 seconds before you actually have the climax, and you feel that that's
high
what I have.
acidity.
That's what I have
Yeah.
constantly. So then I'm just
It's a burn.
exhausted, and I have to take the pain medicine, otherwise I'm just...
It's a burn.
Okay. So for
High electrical burn. So, because it's attracting all kinds of electrical charges. All that metal in there. Chemotherapy is a metallic poison. They are poisons. You don't have any poison, whether it's rat poison, ant poison, the chemotherapy, no matter what it is, you've got metallic poisons in there. Thallium, mercury, lead, all of these combinations with amino acids. They are poisons. They just don't want to kill you completely. And if they kill you completely, they can't get you to take more. So they kill you just enough.
Soft kill.
Yeah, soft kill.
Get anything.
Okay, so we've been all around the room. There's some people who skipped.
No, they're-
Oh, down here. I'm sorry. Yes. Do you have a question? What time is it?
It's almost 6 o'clock.
Oh, we're a little over. Okay, go ahead.
When Fleming developed penicillin, he had war injuries that he witnessed from the First World War in mind. I mean, your view of chemicals and disease, who besides you, did you develop this yourself? Can you read it elsewhere?
Yes, Beauchamp's work.
Oh, thank you.
You know Beauchamp? Dechamp. He was probably the best known biochemist who really was a doctor. Antoine Beauchamp. at the time of Pasteur. So his stuff is, and there's Enderlin. There are quite a few. I refer to some of them in my recipe book in the last 50 pages. You just look up their work. I didn't create it. I discovered it on my own without ever reading them. But, once I read them, I thought, oh, it's already known.
Well, it said that Fleming's penicillin saved 15% of casualties in the Second World War. But you don't like penicillin.
No, penicillin is the worst thing invented since the wheel. It's a lie about it saved 15%. How do you come up with that figure? Do you take one set of soldiers and you treat them with the same wounds with the penicillin and the others? No, they didn't do that. They did no controlled experiments. They just want to sell a product. But what I find is penicillin, once sterilized, has no off switch, no hibernation. So it will eat on your body as long as you're a carbohydrate eater. If you eat any grain-based foods, you're going to feed penicillin in your body for your whole lifetime. And it mainly feeds in the intestines and brain. And I see it in, not everybody, 95 out of 100 people, I see the penicillin pretty rampant. And another 5 out of 100, it's minimal, but still active in the brain and the intestines. People have it, I see some people, it's just all over their whole body. And they wonder why they have fibromyalgia and have no energy. This penicillin is growing in their system like crazy. Now, penicillin belongs in the bird community. The birds eat grains. That is one of their detoxification symptoms, or aids is aids to better health, to getting rid of damaged tissue, is the fungus, the penicillin fungus. But when we put it in our bodies, it grows in us because we live on grain-based foods. And it eats a lot. Because when we eat grains, we don't eat them raw. We eat them cooked. So it damages cells, and then penicillin has a feast. And in some people it is worse than others. But in most people it is not a good thing. You can use lime juice. Then there's no side effect. It's that easy. Okay, do you have a question?
Once you start a detox, like I'm assuming...
Oh, another one is Gaston Naissance in Canada. I've also referred to him in the book.
What's his last name?
Huh?
Aajonus, what's his last name? Gaston?
Naissance. Nasseuons, I think it is, or ENS.
I'm assuming that fear, high anxiety, sleep problems connected with menopause or just with detox. Like, once you start a detox like that, those kinds of things are happening, and say they weren't happening before and you were just like a normal person. And once they start happening, like the way out is the way through, like if you eat cooked food, like if you
You have to understand that there's very few people in our civilized society that aren't going through aches and pains and psychological problems, some little things every day. A little headache here, a little loss of energy, cold or a flu. Everybody's experiencing some kind of detoxification every day, every minute. Some are very extreme, some are mild and mellow. So a lot of people say, well, gee, when I went on your diet, all of a sudden, I'm detoxifying. You say, you never had these aches and pains all in your life, you've been perfect. Why are you going on the diet? I surely wouldn't have gone on this diet without it.
Will the diet, like I've been on it for a year, and I think I need to see you again just to like retune and refine.
I suggest people come back once a year. Unless you have cancer, then it's once every 3 to 4 months.
Because there's so many things to remember. I mean, like even in reading, it's like, then I notice, okay, well, I didn't do that, so maybe that caused that, and it's like, it can be like overwhelming and kind of,
That's why I suggested everybody read my books, both of them every 6 months, at least once a year. I have people who studied under me that read them 16 times, each of them, and said they got out of each one of them every time, even the 16th time, as much as they got out of reading it the first time.
You can't really hurt yourself by trying to help yourself, right?
Well, you can cause more detoxification at times. You can cause chemical imbalances, like mental imbalances that will cause you to get too cold or to experience more pain. You can do those things.
And you can help to...
And you can go off psychologically by eating a lot of fruit without fat, and you can cause all kinds of reactions by not doing it properly.
Could you help me realign and if I saw you again?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I need that help.
Okay. Just give me a call between 7 and 9 in the morning, Central Consult. Do you have a question?
Well, I'm going to be 69 next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So my concern is reversing the aging process, and I think this diet is like a fountain of youth.
Oh, it's incredible.
Absolutely. But is there?
I'm going to be 62 soon, you know?
Yay! Wow.
Think about that. Just think of that. In April, I'll be 62.
Wow.
I'm healthier now than I ever was as a child. Of course, I was never healthy as a child. Healthier than then, and I get healthier every day. Every day gets easier and better.
Yeah.
Really
So I
does.
was wondering if there's any emphasis on the diet for somebody that's older, keeping the hormones up and that sort of thing.
Your bone marrow is the best way to
Really?
advance it backwards quickly.
Never did that.
Apply it and eat it.
Okay.
If you're wanting the weight loss, you can't eat it then. It's not recommended.
It's okay on a weight loss to eat bone marrow, but then you don't want to eat it with meat. Just eat it isolate. That is, your bone marrow would be your meat meal. Your golf ball of meat would be that one bone marrow.
If it starts to ferment, should you skip it?
Good question.
I appreciate your time. This is my
Thank you.
first time at your lecture, and I was recommended to you 2 years ago, but I was too afraid. And it took me all that time to finish your book, and I'm amazed.
Well, this is a terrifying diet.
I practiced with some sushi and sashimi, so it's pretty amazing. But as a transition from 100% fast food, I went to a homeopathic doctor, and they put me on a blood type diet that helped a lot. What do you suggest is the next step to transition into?
Go to page 40 and 41 of the recipe book and choose one of those that fits you.
Okay.
And choose the right meat. Are you a highly active person?
I need to be.
Okay. And you should keep the red meat down and eat mostly white meat. Now, white is a category, not a color. So red tuna, red fish, those are all in the white category. Just remember that red meat is highly acidic, and it stimulates adrenaline, testosterone, estrogen, all of those physical action hormones. And if you don't exercise and utilize those in energy, you're going to use them in anxiety. So anxiety, you're not exercising enough, and or you're eating too much red meat. Depression, you don't have enough E. coli, eat shit.
Eat what?
Eat shit. Get your E. coli. I do. I have people who eat E. coli. Eat the fecal matter to get the E. coli. Take the bowel of a cow, and that E. coli doesn't matter when it's broken down that far. It doesn't matter. It's acidic even in an herbivore. The bowel is acidic. So you just take a sausage section. Farmers will make it that way. You take a slice of the fecal matter and the intestines. You eat those, like 2 ounces every 3 or 4 days to get your E. coli built up.
And your book.
High meat can do it, but high meat doesn't really encourage E. coli to build rapidly because by the time it gets down there, 19 hours, the food moves into the bowel. About 19 hours. Okay, by that time, everything and all that bacteria is eaten and digested. Can help a little bit, but not a lot.
And your book is motivated by the love of your son. I wanted to know how those relationships are going, or those people.
Well, my son is fine. He's in jail. But he's fine.
I'm sure he's not on the raw diet.
He's not on the diet?
What he does is he'll do the raw meat and the eggs. He doesn't bother with getting the milk in he can now in his area. So probably when he gets out this time, he'll go for it. But every 2.5 years, he'll stop doing the proper diet. He never does it fully. He does the raw meat and the raw eggs every day. He does not eat the dairy or honey or the butter or anything else, any of the dairy. So he eats the raw meat and eggs. And then all of a sudden, every 2.5 years, like clockwork, or 2 years and 3 months, he'll stop eating that stuff, gets back into crack cocaine. And he ends up in jail every time. So this time they're not letting him out. They won't even let me bail him out this time. So,
Is that good or bad for you?
well, that's good. He needs to sit in jail for a while and learn that he's not going to get out so easily anymore. He's 44 years old. But otherwise, he's in good health.
So the cocaine is...
Nope. So he loves crack cocaine. See, he was put on Ritalin as children, and about 10 years ago, a psychiatrist, a woman who had 3 doctorates on that in the psychology and psychiatry, showed me a report that stated that in their analysis of people who were crack cocaine addicted, 78%, I think it was 73 to 78% had been put on Ritalin as children.
Gosh.
So there was a direct link between Ritalin and children and crack cocaine. Now, think about this. The Bush family ran crack all through the 80s and 90s. So
From where?
the Bush family.
Where does it
There
come
was
from?
CIA.
Where is
CIA.
Papa Bush was the head of the CIA, and he got all the drugs
From where?
They were
South
sponsoring
America.
all of the clandestine activity in Central America against, all the Central American countries. That was their private CIA war. They funded it by running crack cocaine through, what was it, Honduras? No, it was
oil.
Panama. They were running it through Panama and Nicaragua. And they paid for all of that. So that was, and also, Bush's what? Bush's invested in, one of his main assets was Eli Lilly.
Yeah.
What's that?
So,
Bush Senior.
Bush Senior, yes.
Bush Senior, okay.
Yeah, Bush Senior.
It's a drug company.
So you take a look at that link,
Ritalin.
they know what they're doing. They knew they were going to get a lot of crack cocaine addicts for a lifetime once the kids were put on Ritalin.
But the worst thing is the combination, isn't it? When they combine cocaine and PCP, that's when they become,
Any of
suicidal.
it's dangerous.
But cocaine by itself, you don't suicidal. Is
Not
it?
necessarily. There are people who have cocaine that makes them suicidal. I tried cocaine one time, and I nearly killed a cop and myself. Just on one time. It made me... I just had a little bit, too. Just a few puffs. Just as an experiment. And I got so paranoid and cold, I was just going out of my mind. Out of my mind. So then I started sucking eggs and, milk like crazy, and I got out of it. That was, in the early 70s. That happened.
What do you suggest for people not to get into the children that were in Richmond? What do you suggest for them? When they
Go on a
are
good
off.
diet. They just have to have the dairy. They have to have honey and butter. My son just isn't doing it. He doesn't take the time to do it. He's lazy. Like a lot of people. Do you have questions for me?
Yeah, I consulted with you about my wife's broken leg, and you had recommended pineapple and coconut cream and quarter raw milk.
Cheese.
Yeah, there wasn't any cheese and honey, so that would be also a
Yes,
good thing
absolutely. To get them concentrated minerals.
Okay. And then chicken with lube. Anything else?
Chicken and fish together.
Okay.
Always
Good
benefit
for
with bones, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of red meat.
Right. Anything I can do after the cast is off? I mean, would bone marrow help with that?
Let it put a cast on?
Yeah.
See, it restricts swelling.
Okay.
So get that cast removed immediately. I didn't put one cast on. My body made its own cast. When I split my leg a little over, 20 months ago, I had a motorcycle accident on a big Harley, and I split the tibia from the knee all the way down to the ankle. And then the tibia bone here, the femur sits on top of the tibia bone. It broke off the top of the tibia fragments and jammed it up into the femur joint. They said that I would never, ever walk again without surgery. And I said, I'm on a good diet. And they go, tell you what, I just went to them because I had ripped the tendon on both sides of the knee, one this way and the other one this way, so the whole knee looked like it was out of position. And the pain was not easing. I didn't know I had damaged it that badly. But I hit that pavement really hard. And the bike took my leg one way and the pavement took my body the other, ripped the leg up. So once I found out that it was not dislocated, I didn't get a cast, I didn't take surgery, I went back to the hotel and stayed in the hotel for 6.5 weeks. And had some people help me move and get around and have my food and stuff like that. And I got into the tub to the swimming pool. I talked to the owner of the swimming pool, stopped putting chlorine in it for about 6 days, and then the green algae started growing like crazy and stuff. Then I went into the ocean, which was across the street, and did a mile morning and night. When you're this high in water, there's very little pressure on the leg. So I was getting exercise with the leg. And the tibia was actually broken, so the back of it was opened about 1/8 of an inch. So they wanted to go in and cut me from the ankle up to the hip.
Oh my God.
Force the tibia back together and pin it in 6 to 10 places. And then scrape out the femur joint from those fragments from the tibia. I haven't had any of it done. I am fine. I was walking without crutches in 6 weeks. All of those bone fragments are not gone, but they've never caused me any pain, severe, sharp pain. So my body's slowly dissolving. You can see my knee doesn't go back. The right one doesn't go back all the way.
Well, you also
and that's just for a matter of time.
Leg length discrepancy the last time I saw you, and it's changing.
Correcting.
It's correcting.
Yeah. So I figure after 2 years, after the date will be March 4th or 5th, whenever it was, that my leg will be almost normal.
You said your own, it does your...
In the body, my body made its own cast within 5 days. I lost all my butt. My skin was hanging like an old man. All the skin off, all of the meat off of my butt. I had a bigger one before. It got smaller. Never regained all of it. And this thigh diminished into a small thigh. And all of that, everything hardened from the ankle all the way up to here. And you could go like that, which is like a card cast. Wow. And then, after about 8 weeks, it started disappearing, and my thigh came back and part of my ass.
How long ago did this happen?
20 months
How long
ago?
ago? It will be 2 years in March. Yeah.
So on a break, should we get a splint? Or what?
I have the x-rays. I'm going to go back for x-rays 2 years to the date and get the
have an
x-rays.
x-ray?
I allowed them to do 2 x-rays because they wouldn't adjust my knee without them. They looked at the knee, and I had skin gone all over the place, and they looked at that knee and they said, we're not touching it without x-rays. And I said, well, you only get 2 x-rays. One from this angle and one from this angle, and that's it. So I have those x-rays. And you can see the fragments and the break and everything.
I want to just make a quick asking, if I could. If anybody wants any of these chemtrail stickers, I've been doing this Right to Breathe Healthy Air for a number of years now, and It's a continuation that they spray in the atmosphere, and we can't get a rain.
2 more questions, Kathy.
We've got questions. So all you do is just lay them out there, and then you can go on the website. Is there a website on that?
Yeah. Well, I have these stickers.
Are there websites on the stickers?
Well, they Google chemtrails.
Okay, then you can look it up. They can find out what it's all about.
Okay.
Just you can pass them out.
Okay.
Okay.
When I saw you, you told me that you had a lot of bio. Well, I have a question about this, but this is just I never really understood what is bio, and I couldn't find out.
Bile predigests your fat. Just like hydrochloric acid breaks down protein, bile breaks down fats. Okay, so you have about 60 varieties of bile that make 60 varieties of cholesterols. A third of them will lubricate your body, a third will cleanse, and a third will give you energy.
Anyway, well, now my question about meat is, what I'm doing is I'm mixing honey and butter with my ground meat, and I'm eating really sweet. I like it that way. I like sweet stuff.
How much honey are you using per meat meal?
Well, maybe I put like 2 spoons of butter and 2 spoons of honey with the meat.
Too much.
Okay.
If you have over a tablespoon of honey with a meat meal, it's alkalinizing. It's going to neutralize your hydrochloric acid. So you can't have more than a tablespoon of honey with a meat meal. And that's a level tablespoon, not a heaping.
And not a serving spoon, tablespoon.
We're talking about a regularly measuring tablespoon.
Some people think that's a tablespoon. I'm just saying that's not.
No, a tablespoon, measuring tablespoon is larger than a regular serving spoon. Serving spoon is usually 1.5 teaspoons, which is a half a tablespoon.
Okay, good.
And I have mixed meat and milk.
Milk will also alkalinize. You can't have more than a half a cup of milk with a meat meal.
Oh.
Milk is alkalinizing as far as the relationship of calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and potassium to anything else. So it will neutralize some of the hydrochloric acid. If you have a highly acidic system, go ahead and have a cup of milk with it. If you have acid reflux, if you have trouble with over-acidity, then a little bit more honey, a little bit more milk is fine. If you don't, you're going to despoil your digestion.
How long should you wait after the meat?
I wait, because of my hydrochloric acid problem, I wait a good hour before I'll drink a whole cup of milk. I may have 2 ounces 20 minutes after. I don't usually drink milk. Most people can drink 2 to 4 ounces with a meat meal. I don't because of the lack of hydrochloric acid in my stomach. Most of you could probably wait 30, 35 minutes and have a cup. If you had a half a cup with your meat meal, then have another half a cup 30, 40 minutes later. Unless you're having your cheese at that time, cheese with honey. Then you don't want too much milk with cheese and honey.
So is she having a problem that's like a craving for sweets? Because she said she likes other things.
I like sweets.
And so what would you do for that?
Well, she needs more honey and butter, but not with the meat.
Okay. So that's
Just have less with the meat, with honey and butter frequently.
What I'm doing too is like with my grandson, I'm making his bottle with chicken. Is that okay?
Chicken and milk? Fine.
Or fish and milk.
Yeah,
not
fine.
meat, not red meat. No.
That's
beef.
okay.
Beef and milk too.
Yeah, on a lot of my infants, like I say in the book, it was half milk and half buffalo liver, the tiny bit of honey. I got one kid that's 5 years old and just entered the 4th grade. Well, not just. Last year he entered the 4th grade, so take a look at that. Very
With the
smart.
liver, but also with beef.
Well, that's liver beef. I've never done it with just beef because it's too much muscularly oriented. So the beef liver, yes, or buffalo liver. But any of those will work. If he's a mellower child, if he's a really mellow child without a lot of energy, you might want to try some red meat. Liver.
It's not mellow.
Then you don't want to give him red meat.
you for the chicken and fish. You have a question?
Yeah, except the muscles and soreness, waist stiff and the muscles stiff, so like the suppleness of twisting very fast with exercise. I didn't exercise, or I usually like stretch for about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 3 times a week, and that kind of keeps me going. For the period of about 2 weeks I didn't, and then they got really stiff, and it got worse. Now back to stretching again. It's fine, but it's still kind of the stiffness and
You're
soreness.
too thin. You have nothing to arrest the uric acid, which is a byproduct of metabolism. So what your body does is uses calcium and other minerals to bind with those acids.
Okay.
And they cause crystals.
So you get more
called
fat.
stiffness.
More fat.
And more fat. You could also drink some whey with a sport drink, or drink whey by itself. Have a little vinegar that helps break down uric acid.
Yeah.
Good. So any of those.
What did I step on? What is my foot?
No.
A piece of meat fell off one of the walls.
Oh.
We don't know where.
No, I think it came off this chair.
Oh, off the chair.
I thought I'm falling apart. Maybe the leg didn't help when it was all that. My cast is falling apart. Okay, we've gone through. Yes, you didn't ask a question, so ask.
We're for hernias. My father's 71. He's got 2 hernias, one on each side.
Okay, hernia is almost impossible to correct at that age. So you might have to have surgery. The only thing I've never tried with a hernia is close to the skin, so it might react very well, is putting bone marrow there. So you have to understand, in every autopsy that I've done on a herniated tissue, there are metals from vaccines that are in that tissue and never allow it to heal and seal.
What is a herniated tissue?
Tissue that rips and never heals again.
They don't put a shot in the hernia.
You get a shot, the poisons go to that area where you have a membrane that can herniate.
Well, not everybody that goes there.
No, it doesn't.
Say.
Right? Yes.
Crumbling appendix, with the diet sort of take care of that?
Yeah, I've had 2 people who went in for surgery after appendicitis, and the doctor found that the appendix was completely enveloped in fat, even though it burst. All the poisons were contained, and if they hadn't removed it, the appendix could have healed itself and been your library again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Been your library.
How many times have you been? I said the appendix is a library of everything that's ever entered your body and how the body needs to respond to it. So let's say you get bitten by a snake or a black widow. The body will know instantly by going to the appendix what remedy to use within 20, 30 minutes. The body has already taken care of it. If you don't have appendix, it could be 36 to 40 hours because your body has to re-chemistry and evaluate it all over again.
So if it's just crumbling, that's because of the bad diet. That's because of a bad diet, right?
Correct, yeah.
You change the diet and then that's it.
Yeah, but you still have to be careful on this diet to do it balanced. I know people eating a lot of fruit, like that one of the fellows I was telling you about, they had the fat wrapped around it. Certainly ate a lot of fat, but he ate way too much fruit. And that caused his to rupture.
Is it a general rule of thumb that if things are aged, like the cheese or the meat or any of those things, that they will cause a detox?
No. No, they usually feed your body better.
Even the bone
But sometimes what happens is your body gets so many nutrients it says, oh, I'm going to detoxify.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens when you feel just great.
Yes.
And the next day you're like, I can't get out of bed. How much bone marrow did you say to take? I forgot. I didn't write it down.
Well, I didn't. I would have to see you for that.
Oh, okay.
To be able to give you.
I want to come soon. Are you going to be here for a while?
Yeah, I'll be here until mid-February.
Great. I'll come. And then, but in the meantime, should I just take a spoonful now and then, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, eat one a day. At
One
least
spoonful
one
a
bone
day.
marrow a day.
Okay. Got it.
How long bone marrow usually comes in inch and a half to 2 inch sections of bone, and then you push it out or scoop it out.
How long do you keep it on the teeth?
Leave it all night.
All night.
Yeah, just leave it on all night.
Great.
My cat does it all.
Just leave your mouth full of it. Full of it. No, it just looks like you put nice, beautiful oil on it.
No, I know, my cat, I'm just saying my
Your
cat.
cat will lick it off your face, absolutely. Need a cage. No, cage for your face. Catcher's mask.
What's the best bones in a chicken for bone marrow?
There is none.
The thigh bone seems to have something in there that looks
Yeah,
like...
they do, but it's very red. There's a lot of blood in it. It doesn't have the same concentration of it. I mean, they can be helpful.
Okay. What about turkey marrow?
Turkey marrow is a little better.
But beef marrow is the best? Or
Beef,
buffalo?
I found that beef marrow is the best because you can get so much more of it. So I've been able to experiment with the bone marrow from buffalo and beef, but not turkey or chickens because it's too hard to get the marrow.
What are the
So I
best
really
bones
don't
in the
know.
beef to get it from?
The thigh.
What cuts of meat?
The femur.
Femur?
Femur bone.
Aajonus,
But there's a huge knot like this at the joint and at the knee, and they have no marrow. So you just cut that down below the knot about 3 inches, and then you'll start getting the soft marrow.
if the bone marrow's kind of old, that's fine too, right?
You just stink if you put it on your face.
Yeah, if you need it.
But as far as working, it still works.
Yeah.
Just don't freeze it.
No.
Freeze it, then you lose it. Okay, we've got to go. We've got to Now, the next one will be March 1st. March 1st, and it will be at a dance studio in Santa Monica. And the guy is going to teach us dance, if you want to stay and learn dance, about 6:30. It's 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Cool.